Yeah, this is live. So,
You, Charlie.
I'm looking at you.
all right, we should be live. I mean, it feels weird because it just is the same, but we are now officially live. I'm gonna check it on YouTube. I was watching the Sickos video before it came on here. Right, it's not saying we're live yet, but sure, it's just gonna take a second.
It says we're live. I'm watching.
All right, we're live now.
Lovely.
I'm going to promote this on my Instagram and then we're good. Alrighty. Such a different vibe from other podcasts. So I am here with Serafina, who is my teammate during the Red Bull Can You Make It Challenge. And we're also here with the Mad Lads, which is Dash and Charlie.
Hello.
We both have a third member to our team. So me and Serafina did this challenge with Lucas, who cannot make the live stream today. And Marco on their team also cannot make the live stream today. Essentially, what we did is we crossed Europe. There's 5 starting cities: Copenhagen, Milan, Budapest, Barcelona, and I'm forgetting the last one.
Amsterdam?
Amsterdam. Yes, thank you guys for jumping in there. You get dropped off in a European city. They take away your phone. They take away your wallet, and you have to go from your starting city to Berlin using only Red Bull as currency. That means trading Red Bull for food, for sleep, for transportation, for literally everything. We just came off what is labeled as the adventure of a lifetime, and I wanted to have a recap of the adventure here that I could forever look back on and to send to my friends and family who are curious about it. So I guess I'm gonna let Dash and Charlie introduce themselves, and then Serafina, and then we'll get into it. So Dash and Charlie, you can go.
Yeah, I'll jump on it. My name is Dash McDonald. I am 23 years old. We both grew up in Phoenix, Arizona our whole lives. Charlie, Marco, and I met I met Charlie like 5-6 years ago, and we've been living together the last year, been really close friends, and I have a relationship with Red Bull because I'm a filmmaker. And so obviously when I heard about the contest, I was super eager to jump on it. And this is actually my second time entering. So before COVID, I'd entered and we'd gotten a spot to go. And then we obviously didn't get to go because of COVID. And so this is our redemption.
Yeah, I'm Charlie, by the way. And yeah, learned about this competition through Dash. And once we knew that it was happening again in 2024, we just knew we had to jump on it. And we got to start in Milan, which is a lot different than where the kids team started in Barcelona. But I'm glad we were able to meet up and look at us here today. So it's fantastic.
Serafina?
Well, yeah, I'm Serafina, not too much about me, but I'm Ozzy's partner, and he called me up one night. I go to bed early, grandma time, and I get a phone call from Ozzy. I'm like, this could mean literally anything coming from this kid just because he does anything and everything all at once. Calls me and is like, got this Red Bull competition. Lucas and I are going to do it, and we want a girl on our team, and we want you guys to come. And I was like, all right. Looked into it, and then kind of from there had to fill out all of the forms, applications. There's a lot more that kind of goes into it than I kind of thought, like the whole like notary stuff, all the application forms. There's a lot that goes into it. But then Lucas, Ozzy, and I kind of became a team that way, and I couldn't be more grateful for them.
Yeah, when I saw an ad for the Sickos, they were like trading Red Bull in New York City, and they said, do you want to be in this Red Bull Can You Make It thing? And it was March 20th. And the application period had been open from January 1st to March 30th. So we saw it 10 days before the application period was closed. And when I saw it, I just had a feeling in my heart that if I applied, we would get selected. And I called Lucas because as a dropout most of my friends are creators and they're all spread out over the US. And Lucas is like one of my only creator friends who's located in San Diego. And I called Lucas and he said he was super hyped on it. He was like, I actually was supposed to apply with someone else, but they bailed. Like, let's do it. And he was like, originally I wasn't thinking about having a girl on our team. And he's like, we need a girl. And I was like, why do we need a girl? And he said, well, think about it. Like if you're 3 dudes and you're approaching girls to trade for like train tickets or like you need a place to stay, it's like, yo, 3 dudes, can we stay in your house? It's like, it comes off so bad. And I literally wouldn't like, I was like, well, then who? And he suggested Serafina, and Serafina's more dialed than like 95% of my friends. Like she's running businesses, has a YouTube channel, gets good grades, also is a yoga instructor now. And I'm like, what? Like I call Serafina and she goes to bed at 9 p.m. So I was like, it was like 10:30. I was like, if she's up, this is a sign. And you were up and you said my whole family's coming to visit me that weekend. And I was like, but if we like get accepted, they'll be okay with it. And you're like, okay, I'm down. And we were all, Lucas was in Bali, I was in Big Bear, and you were in San Diego, and we all coordinated the video from different locations. And like literally 4 days after we submitted the video, we got accepted, which was a crazy feeling. What was Dash and Charlie? What was that like when we had Jared call us? Was it Jared who called you?
I don't think Jared called me. I'm trying to remember. It was a girl, and she was just there was a lot of people on the phone for ours. Like they were really excited.
And they called you because you were the team captain as well.
Yeah, but like honestly, for me, the whole reason that like we actually also did ours really last minute because
we submitted it like at 11:50 p.m.
We submitted it the day it was due. But the reason we did that was because originally I'd talked to Red Bull because I work with them a little bit, and I never thought I'd be able to enter again just because the original rules of it were like you had to be in college, you had to be a university student. And I graduated last year, and like I also just didn't think I'd be able to win it again because I don't know, just logistically didn't seem like it was something that they'd be able to do. So I originally was actually planning on helping out Marco and Charlie do their video because I thought it'd be really cool if I could at least help someone get there. And then like a couple weeks before it was due, I think it was like 3 weeks before, they were like, hey, you should do it. And I was like, am I even able to? And they said I could. So we kind of went, we filmed like a week or two later, and then kind of came together very last minute.
It was a fun time making the video. We had a blast.
Dude, your video was one of the best application videos by far. And that was like when I was watching the application videos, I knew we were chilling because the thing is the target audience for Red Bull, like a lot of them have never made a video before. And we're all YouTubers, or at least me, Serafina, and Lucas. Like we've all have some experience. And a lot of people were just like talking into the camera. So that was really relieving. But let's get into like just arriving, what it was like, because I actually don't think we've dove much into your experience in Milan when you got there. Like what happened from the moment you landed in the airport? They paid for your flight there, and then you get to the airport, and then what happens?
Yeah, I mean, had an amazing flight over, flew to London, then London straight to Milan, and we got there. And we went to go to the baggage claim, and Dash and Marco got their bags right away. And then sadly, mine never came out. So I was really panicked right from the start. But right from the start, Dash and Marco kind of assuaged my feelings. And I talked to a nice lady at the desk, and she said my bag was coming on the next flight. And yeah, we went to the hotel, checked in, sat down for a bit. And then I went back to the airport, got my bag. And then after that, I kind of like took a deep breath. And after that, we kind of regrouped and discussed what we were going to do. And we didn't really know what we were going to do. So we went downstairs and we met the Brazilian team, the Rad Bulls. And that's where we were kind of realizing like, oh, damn, this is like, there's some really cool people doing this trip with us. And so actually that night we ended up just going out on the metro, going to a nice little like pizza place, and hanging out there with the Brazilian team and a Colombian team, then another American team. And it was great. So just like the first day we got there, it was like, obviously like the whole trip, there was some ups and downs, but it was just really nice to get to Milan. And then just that feeling of like walking around and meeting all these other teams was just like, I don't know, that was the coolest thing ever. I know you guys probably experienced that too when you got in, just getting to meet all these other teams and hear where they're from and like what they do. It's just really cool.
Yeah, Servina, you should tell them about like our van ride with Team Japan and how you felt.
Yeah, so to be like go backtrack a little bit on the plane, we weren't even really talking much about the whole experience to people on the plane, but it just happened very naturally. Like there was a woman we were just like dancing like on the plane, like we were making friends already, and kind of just like had the energy right from the start, which then continued when we got off the plane. And then we were in a van with Team Japan, and I don't speak Japanese. They don't have the best English, but the energy speaks more than your language. And that's something that I noticed throughout the entire trip, because I don't speak any other language besides English. It's not the best, but I'll go up to people. They speak French. I don't understand what they're saying. They don't know what I'm saying, but you kind of just give a thumbs up and it's like, okay, great. You're going to help me. Maybe not. And it's that's a lesson that I learned throughout this trip, is like your energy can speak so much more than just like your language and your words. And in the van with Team Japan, when we got off the plane going to our hotel, it's a hostel. They say hotel. It is a full-on hostel. We shared a room with 3 other girls and then our team, and it was smaller than my dorm room. It was crazy.
Well, yeah. So Menninger sponsored. There was a hotel company called Menninger that sponsored the event. And I think every starting city had a Menninger, but Barcelona didn't. So we were just put in a hostel, and we were like walking up and down the alleys trying to find our room. And we knew our room number, but we kept walking up to the door and we heard girls screaming in there. So we were like, this can't be our room, because like we're in a hotel. Like, and they were trolling us too. We'd walk up to the door and they'd be like, we're getting changed. Like, don't come in. And so we were like, we went and we thought we had the wrong number. We knocked on every other door, or we tried our key card on every other door in the hostel. And then we went back down the front and Serafina was like, this is our room. And then we were sharing a room. It was actually the other ASU team, the Red Bulls Angels. And from the very beginning, it was just, I think like I kind of, I knew what we were going to, but just seeing 50 teams from different countries around the world, and they're all the most social people from every country, was very surreal. That was like when the trip felt very real. And then especially, I don't know, did you guys have your meeting? Did you have two nights to sleep before the thing?
Yeah, we got pretty lucky because we got to we flew in and we got to go to that pizza place with everyone, and then the next day we had a full day in Milan. So we went and explored the city. We went and looked around,
wow.
And then we had the meeting the next night.
Dude, we flew in hours before the meeting. So we were and we flew overnight from San Diego. So we were dead going to the meeting.
We were
yeah, it felt like a fever dream. We're in this room. There's 500 people from different countries, and everyone's just free. Every slide they show, oh, you're going to be crossing Europe only using Red Bull's currency. Everyone in the room's yeah! They're all flying from Europe. So they're all
the most pointless meeting, in my opinion. But I say we all cut to the starting point. Dash and Tara, how did you guys feel the second it was a 3, 2, 1, go? And you had no money, no cash, no phone, and just you guys in Milan.
I think you kind of touched on it. I almost felt like it was very intimidating right off the rip because, like you said, Charlie speaks some Spanish. I really only speak English, but you know what I mean? We have traveled around a little bit, but a lot of the teams that we met were some of the most social people I've ever met in my life, spoke multiple languages, were telling me they had friends all over Europe. You know what I mean? Things like that. And I was just we're from America. And we have no connections out here, and they're about to take all of our money. And it's it was really intimidating because, I'm sure you guys felt it. The second we got off the finish line, it was what do we do? I remember when we first started asking people, hey, will you get us a train ticket? It was the most foreign feeling ever because, you've never begged in your life for anything like that. You know, I think all of us come from privileged backgrounds where we've never been homeless. And so it's definitely a weird feeling right off the rip.
Yeah. We had a weird, not a weird situation, but the film guy just chose our team. Don't really know why, but he decided to choose us. So we kind of felt this pressure that we had to make it like so entertaining and great from the start. So originally we were like, our goal was just to get out of Barcelona as fast as we can. There was a snippet that he got of me like saying that, and I ended up using that as credibility throughout the entire trip because we could use our Instagrams to showcase the videos, but can't like DM people and whatnot. But having that was good, but it kind of detoured us a little bit, but it ended up helping us. But we just did a bunch of the, what are they called? Adventure challenges. So anyone listening with this so we had content phones that we were allowed to use, and there was a Red Bull app. And within it, there was challenges that you could do each day that had a certain amount of points. So the one that we did right off the bat at the train station was to break dance with like another team and then have someone judge it, or jump rope with a stranger, or start a flash mob. So he had those throughout the entire trip that kind of kept the ball rolling in terms of like entertainment and creativity and posting content for Red Bull. And since the guy was following us, we just like hit off a bunch of those. And then Ozzy should talk about the group of the girls that we met.
Yeah. Well, we had a plan. Like our plan from the get-go was to go to Monaco because I had figured out that the Grand Prix was the same week. And when I didn't think people were going to be like, I knew some people would take flights, but I thought it was going to be really, really rare to get a flight. And so I was thinking about it like, you can only go to the Grand Prix if you start in Barcelona, which obviously wasn't the case because later found out a bunch of teams made it to Monaco. But so I was like, dude, we're in this blessed position starting in Barcelona. It's like a sign to go to Monaco. And then even on the plane ride there, we met some people who were like, we're going to Monaco. And we overlooked someone watching an F1 race. And like Serafina's really big on like synchronicities, like, oh, things keep showing up. And Monaco keeps showing up. So we're like, let's get to Monaco. And I did not want to train and bus there. I was like, let's go straight to the Barcelona airport and get plane tickets and we'll make it work. But we get out, the guy's filming us. We basically told him the plan. We're like, go big or go home. We're either going to fly to Nice or take the furthest train to San Sebastian, or like, which was like the furthest checkpoint in Spain. And it was counter Berlin. And then you like reality kind of hits you. We found these group of American girls and they're like, we'll buy you train tickets. So we had a dilemma. We're like, well, do we go to the airport and try to fly somewhere, or do we just accept these train tickets and move forward? And from there, our plan just shifted. We're like, let's just get to the next checkpoint. We got train tickets from these girls and we went to Girona. And we were one of 4 teams that started in Barcelona that made it to Girona. And Girona was the closest checkpoint. So that kind of gave you like a scope of how hard it was if we were only one of 4 teams that started in Barcelona. And it was really daunting because our starting city was twice as far as the next closest one. And Girona was like if Berlin to Barcelona was like this, Girona was like this. And we like went as hard as we possibly could the first day to get there.
Yeah, I think that was a good point you brought up of like, you kind of slightly mentioned it, but you plan something and then it's going to change within the next 5 minutes because you never know. So Dash and Charlie, what was a moment for you guys that you kind of had this plan, like we're going to do X, Y, Z, and then something happens and then like complete like 180 turn?
I think it started in the beginning. So
right off the rip.
Right off the rip. So right after we put we had some time to game plan. Like they gave us an hour before the race was starting, and we were it was really funny. Everybody was in this gym, and everybody's sitting there on the ground with their maps out and their Red Bull phones out, looking at all the checkpoints and where to go. And we were doing the exact same thing. We're sitting there looking at our maps, looking at where to go, and we're like, we're going north. We're going to Switzerland. We're going maybe from Switzerland to Austria and then to Germany. Like that was our game plan. Like. And we're sitting there looking at the Red Bull phone, and on the adventure challenges, like it tells you the dates and the times for the challenges. And I remember we were looking at it. Dash had the phone. He's like, we got to go to Pontabrola. Like there's going to be like the world. Yeah, there it is. The Xiaomi. And we were looking at our phones and we're looking at Pontabrola in Switzerland. And we're like, it's the world's biggest like bungee jumping in the world. We're like, we have to go do this. and we're looking at it, and it says that the checkpoint was closed for the next day because of inclement weather.
It was changed.
It was changed. Well, yeah, it was changed to probably something that wouldn't be.
It was
as
like you jump in
amazing.
some water.
Yeah, it's like you do like a little cliff jump. Still pretty cool though in Switzerland. But we were looking at it and we're like, okay, this trip is 7 days. We don't need to directly go north right away. We don't need to. And when Dash was the one who said that, I was like, what are you talking about, buddy? Like, you're crazy. We need to go north. We need to get there. And we were talking about it, and Marco chimes in. He's like, if we go to Turin, we could possibly have a challenge at the Juventus Stadium.
Yeah.
And Marco's not even that big of a football, soccer fan, whatever you want to call it. But he just says that like his uncle and like a bunch of his coworkers like always tell him like, if you're in Italy and you get to go to the Juventus Stadium, like they'll be so jealous. And he's like, we should go to Turin. So right off the rip, our plans completely changed. We're not going north. We're going south, away from Berlin, but it was the best choice we ever made. And also at the start, we kind of had some time to communicate with the other teams, and we talked with the Rad Bulls. And then so once the race started, we did a bunch of those adventure challenges like you guys did probably. We did like the motivational speech. Dash tried to walk into the gym where we started and like give a bunch of kids a motivational speech, but the coach was like, no, he's like, get out of here. It's really funny. And then he ended up giving a motivational speech to some dude doing push-ups at this gym right across the road. Beat the Australians in a paper airplane challenge. That was super fun. And then we did a dance battle right off the rip. And then we were kind of at this point where we're walking out of the starting zone. We were like the last ones to leave the starting zone. Like all the Red Bull people had packed up and walked out. And that was when the reality kind of set in of, okay, now we got to get out of here. Yeah. And that experience was shocking. And I'll say this, I was the first person to go up to a random Italian stranger and ask them to get directions to the Milan Central train station. So after I did that, I was like, all right, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. It was weird though. I mean, I remember we got to the train station and we probably tried talking to people for like 30 minutes. And like all three of us were like, this is weird.
It's hard.
Like this is hard because we just got denied for like 30 minutes straight. And it's just like, you know, when you would get denied for hours on ends, it would honestly take a toll on you mentally. And so like you kind of just had to eat it and just keep going because one yes changed everything. And we kind of experienced that right away where we met this guy named Giovanni and they were running a music festival actually at the train station. So we kind of gotten like, we lost our morale a little bit and we're like, let's just go explore outside the train station. Yeah. And we like stumbled upon a music festival. I start talking to this guy, Giovanni, come to find out he's like the guy that planned it. And he's like, I'll get you guys train tickets, but I want you guys to stay for the music festival for a little bit. So like we kind of actually did hit a pretty good start and we were definitely like a little bit overly confident because of that. And then once we like took those trains to Turin, we were like, oh, it's late. We have no place to sleep. And then we had to sleep in a park. And that was definitely like, whoa moment. Because we were like, we're completely on our own. I remember we called Red Bull and we're like, we talked to a bunch of locals, tried a bunch of hotels, and like nothing was working. And like everyone was like, don't sleep in the parks, you're gonna get stabbed. And and so I called Red Bull. I'm like, where's a safe place around here to sleep? And they're like, there's a park right by you. I'm like, that's the one they said I'd get stabbed at. So we kind of realized pretty quickly that it was very much so like in our own hands, and it wasn't like, it's not a reality TV show that's scripted. It's you're doing it. You don't have a phone. You don't have a wallet. Like there's no Google Maps. You're totally in it. So that was definitely a weird feeling day one.
You know, something I just realized, it's funny because you'd think day one would have been you'd think day one would be the hardest to get rejected because you're obviously not going around asking people for free stuff before this. But actually, I felt that day one was quite easy for us, Serafina, because we knew what trains we were trying to get on, and there was such a time crunch that it was like, well, especially after the American Girls bought us a train, I told them to buy us the soonest possible train, and I gave Serafina and Lucas like BS confidence that we would make it. I was like, we'll get on the subway, we'll get there in time, even though it was such a close call. So we had literally no time to be scared of rejection. It was just like, if you get rejected, we're going to miss the train ticket that they already bought us. And so we were just like, go, 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 go. Mm-hmm. it's like that thing in self-help. There's like I think it's like the backwards 5 rule, where it's like if you're scared to do something, if you can do it before you can count the 5 backwards, you like won't face the fear. So yeah, so it really like the fear of rejection was like non-existent the first day for some reason, at least for me. I don't know how you felt about it, Sabrina.
It was just a go, go, go. You had no other option. We weren't even thinking about food. We were not thinking about our health. We were just like, let's get somewhere to stay the night. And throughout the entire trip of the 7 days, you planned the entire day of trying to get somewhere. The second you get there, you have to think of the next place. And then you get there, and then it's the next place. So it was really difficult to try to enjoy some of the places. Like, of course, we were in beautiful Nice, France, heard so many amazing things about it. But I'm there thinking like, okay, I'm trying to get to the next place. And I kind of just want to fast forward just a little bit to Monaco, just because we had such beautiful moments there. The teams of Ozzy and I, and Lucas and Dash, Charlie and Marco, we did meet in Nice, France. We all had crazy stories getting there, but we met up together. And when we were in Monaco, it was kind of, and we can talk about that as well, but part of it was we were then like, oh, we have to go to Germany and then try to go to these next steps. But as we're all kind of scrambling, I just took a step back and was like, guys, we made it to Monaco. This is what we've been wanting to do. Let's just enjoy it. And that's just a huge lesson that I learned throughout the entire trip is I've always heard enjoy the journey, blah, blah, blah. But that really taught me to just actually enjoy the journey. And it wasn't me actually trying to, it just happened very naturally because I didn't have time to think about anything else. I was just immensely present. I didn't have to try to be present. So that was a huge takeaway for me of just enjoying what you have in front of you now.
The other thing too is like, even when we like the vibe completely changed after we met you, Dash and Charlie. We literally were going as hard as we possibly could. I remember we got our first hitchhike and Serafina was really scared to hitchhike. I mean, I was like, as an American, you're basically taught like hitchhiking is like dangerous. Like don't hitchhike. Yeah. I mean, that's what my parents taught me. And so we were trying to avoid it at all costs, but it was just so unreasonable to do this trek. So we got our first hitchhike and took us about 3 hours, but that was a really big win. And it dropped us off in this small town in France. And we were told that French people were like mean. We were in a small town. We were just at the train station and we had 2 hours to get 3 train tickets that costed 180 euros. And we like that. I honestly think if there was any moment that it was like our greatest trading or asking the most pure, I really felt like it was in that train station. And somehow we ended up getting the 180 euro train tickets for 80 euros. Like they made a mistake, but we were treating it like it was 180.
I talked to the guy not knowing. I think there's definitely an advantage being American because actually didn't know what you were saying or talking about. So sometimes they'll give you the benefit of the doubt and just be like, shut up, just take the tickets and just leave, like talking to the people at the counter just to like help you out.
And we should also like explain why, like, I don't know if you guys, how exactly it went down, but there was like a reason that I was trying to get you guys to come to Monaco with us was because when we got to Nice, France, again, the first night we had got lucky and a dude invited us to our jungle beach house. And me and Serafina and Lucas are such like dreamers. We can do it that like getting that sense of security the first night, we were just like, oh, we can do it every single night. Like we're chilling. And then the second night, it was the night we slept outside on the beach and Serafina didn't even sleep a single minute. And we were like tweaking, running on 1 hour, 0 hours of sleep. And I was thinking subconsciously, I don't know if I told Serafina or Lucas, I think I did, but I was like, if we end up sleeping outside again, like we can't be this scared because we're not going to get good sleep and it's going to be detrimental to our health. So I was like, I'm going to literally try to convince another team to combine with us. And before I was against it because I was set on winning. Like I wanted to win the whole thing. So I was like, I don't want to be with another team because if I'm with another team, that means they might like steal our strategies and win. But once I realized that we had no chance of winning, I was like, okay, we need to sleep with another team so that if we end up outside, we're okay. So I was talking to Dash and Marco and Charlie, and I think they were saying, Charlie, that you were going to be against it. But then they were also telling me you were the F1 fan. So I was like, dude, like, you guys got to get him to come to the Grand Prix, just Grand Prix, and then you guys can take it. How did it go from there?
No, I mean, yeah, it was the third day by then, and I think we all talked with each other, like in the Nice airport when we slept on the ground. We were just kind of like looking at the standings, and we're like, wow, we're way far behind. We have a good spot to move, but we might as well just enjoy ourselves and enjoy the journey. And that's kind of why we went to Monaco with you guys, is because we just kind of realized that we want to make the most fun of this trip and still make it to the end, because we still can do that, but we don't need to win. But I'd say we really ended up winning because we had the best time, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I mean, we were getting worried at this point because we started Milan. Our original plan was just to beeline it to Germany. Like, I thought in itself, getting from Milan to Germany, just going straight shot was going to be hard in itself. And so when we did Turin, we realized that we couldn't actually train to Switzerland very easily from Turin, even though it's like not that far. There's just no good train stations that will like take you to the right spots. So we're like, well, let's just go to Nice at this point. And I think we'd already talked about going to Monaco. I mean, it's Monaco. It's a beautiful place. And so we were definitely like still trying to figure out what our plans were exactly, but especially once you kind of came in and we're like, hey, you want to do it?
Yeah.
And then we were like, yeah.
That sealed the deal right there.
Yeah,
and you're like, let's go to Monaco. And I was like, yes, let's go.
Yeah.
And you're like, the train is right there. And we're like, yes.
Yeah.
And then we just started walking over there, and then the rest was history after that. And yeah, it was amazing.
It just kept, the second our forces and energy combined, it was just a roll and streak. Like the second we go up to the platform, I don't know, I talked to that lady, that couple, we get train tickets for 6 people right off the bat. We didn't end up needing train tickets.
Yeah.
And then I'm on the train, and then meet a couple that bought us all food right off the bat. And then we train all the way to Monaco, and then we're in Monaco. We get to go walk around, have fun, and then we're up at the palace. And I want you guys to talk that story with Rohan and the girls with the hotel.
I want to say something else too, because when we knew like we had no chance of winning, and we're such like winning minded people that we were like, how can we win if we don't win? And we knew that the grand prize winner got to hang out with Max Verstappen. So we were like, if we go to Monaco and we can hang out with Max Verstappen and we drop that in the chat, like, we're going to win the grand prize without winning the grand prize. So that's why on that first day when we were in Monaco, we were making all those signs trying to get his attention, because we wanted to like win the grand prize without winning the grand prize.
Yeah.
But
I at that point, I was just like, how can we do the dopest stuff without winning? You know what I mean? Like, how can we still have these great experiences and like almost make these other teams jealous of us? Because I mean, like, the winning person got an experience in itself, you know? And I was like, well, can we just make it happen during the trip? But yeah, we went to the Grand Prix basically right when we got there. And sure enough, Max Verstappen was speaking like 2 or 3 hours after we got there. It was kind of ridiculous timing.
So yeah, we got to see him. But backtracking a little bit, like, we get to Monaco, we get off the train, and we're starting to walk through the city, and all of us are just in our camping backpacks, all disheveled, no shower. And I remember just walking up towards like the fan zone area and just feeling like so out of place, but also at the same time, I just felt this like this sense of like I'm really cool because I'm here with Red Bull, you know? And I just felt like I was on cloud 9, you know, the whole time. And it was just hilarious how they just let us right into the fan zone with all of our huge backpacks, and they just like kind of looked at it and they're like, yeah. But yeah, and then what ended up happening is we talked to somebody in the fan zone. They're like, yeah, you can go see the race from the Prince Albert's Palace. And so we walk up this huge hill, but at this time, like, I didn't even feel the weight of my backpack on my back because I was just looking out over this view, just seeing all the yachts in the marina and the Bay of Monaco. And I was just overjoyed. And I don't know, my face was locked in a huge smile. And we got to the top, put all of our bags down in the viewing corner, kind of took up the best viewing corner, but hey, you know, we're homeless. That's our viewing corner. And then we ended up staying up there on the lookout from the Prince's Palace for, gosh, I don't know, a couple hours. And we saw, you know, all the changes of seasons. It was raining, it was sunny, and it was raining really hard. And while we were up there, we kind of made the executive decision that like our two teams like needed to split up, but that only came after we had posted a story, or Dash had posted a story, and one of our homeboys from college, who we really weren't like the best of friends with, but we knew him through college from a couple of years back. And just out of the blue, I'm holding the Xiaomi phone, about to take like a photo of myself, and I see this DM. It's like, hey, I live here in Monaco. Let me know if you need anything. But as you guys know, we weren't allowed to respond to DMs, respond to comments, do anything of that nature. No, like reaching out to people. And so, yeah, at that point, we're just like, we're here.
Yeah, look where we are.
Look where we are. And we're going to be up here for a little bit longer. Just trying to find out somebody can help us. So like,
and then he messaged me like, I'm going to come find you. And then I think we waited for hours. And at that, we waited for like an hour, and you guys were like, we need to kind of get cooking.
Yeah.
And so you guys left. And honestly, I was a little bit concerned that we weren't going to see you guys again, to be honest.
Really?
I know, honestly, yeah. I mean, I just think that.
I didn't think that at all.
Really? I really actually was
I
like,
gained your guys'
we may have totally just
trust.
lost them.
I don't know. I gained trust when we all shared food at that Starbucks at the train station. That's
yeah, well, you were pulling the weight. You guys got us the tickets. You guys got us the Starbucks. Like I felt like we were not doing anything. So
No.
I mean, I know we had connected, but at the same time, it's like we're all homeless. It's a little bit every
I
man
didn't
for
think that at
himself.
all.
And so I was like,
Yeah.
That's why like when we did get the hotel, I was so excited, and
Yeah.
Rohan, because I was just like,
we pulled our weight.
We pulled our weight. Now we're gonna gain their trust, and like that we can bring something to the table as well.
But just to backtrack a little of what happened. So we're standing up there on top of the hill. Everybody leaves. They cancel the race. It's pouring rain. And it's me, Marco, and Dash just hanging out up there, still thinking that Rohan's going to come to us on the top of the palace in the pouring rain. We still have this like sliver of hope. And obviously you guys, you had gone back down to the fan zone and just started asking random people, which I thought was great that you were doing that. I didn't even know you were doing that. And and then all of a sudden it's pouring so much rain. Dash goes to go move the backpacks a little bit. And I see these like kind of influencer girls walk up, and I'm like, Marco, let's just go talk to them. Like they're the only other people up here. And they turned out to be the nicest, sweetest people on the planet Earth. And they wanted to buy us plane tickets, but they couldn't. And then they end up giving us their 4-bedroom hotel room in Nice because they're flying off to Rome that night, which happened to be, perfect timing.
Yeah.
And then literally right as we did the handoff is when you like texted us in the Red Bull app in the team chat.
Yeah, you said I have some great news for you. And then I said back, I was like, I've got some great news too. We just got in the hotel 5 minutes earlier. And so we were literally on our way down to come find you.
It was perfect.
And Max Verstappen was speaking about 15 minutes later as well. So like we kind of rejoined forces, and we're like, we got the hotel. We're like, we found Rohan's friend. We're like, amazing.
Yeah, it worked out perfectly.
It was actually like a complete mistake that we found Rohan, because I was trying to ask people for plane tickets. Like I'm trying to get people to buy us plane tickets. And I was talking to this group of girls for a long time. That's where we first met Kayla. And Serafina had come up to me and said something like,
yeah, because I had the content phone because I was team captain, and Dash says we have good news. Like it's whatever. So I go up to Ozzy, I'm like, we don't have to worry. Like Rohan's got us. And then the girls go, Rohan, you guys know Rohan?
No way.
And I'm like, I don't really know Rohan, but I kind of know Rohan. They go, Rohan's coming here right now to come down. And I'm like, no way. Like, it was just such a small world. It was wild.
Yeah, they all knew Rohan, but like I wasn't even asking if they knew Rohan. It's just because Serafina accidentally brought it up. And then I was like, yo, can we call him on your phone? And then he came to us, which I figured like he must have not known where you guys were, because it had been like an hour and a half since he said he was coming to you at that point. So I was like, come to me. And then this was the craziest part of that hotel story, is that for the people listening, it's the Grand Prix. It's one of the richest events in the world. And every single hotel in the city was sold out. And I know that because the night before, me and Serafina had literally walked to every hotel in Nice, which is further from Monaco. And every hotel was sold out in the closest cities. So it was definitely sold out there and probably way more expensive there. And I want to mention the God moment, because I had asked you guys, can I pray for you? Just because I'm super Christian, I'm trying to push the Jesus message, and you guys were super kind about it, yeah, of course you can pray for us. And I prayed for our day, and I read the passage that was about it was about God providing. It's like, can worrying add a single hour to your life? God feeds the birds. He dresses the lilies. Like, you have nothing to worry about. And then that same day, those girls gave you a hotel, and every hotel in the city was booked out. They gave you a 4-bedroom hotel. So it's like, who's going to give you a hotel that can accommodate 6 people in a city where it's completely booked out? And then I guess from my understanding of the interaction, the only thing they really did afterwards was pray for you. And Marco ran up to me and was like, when you prayed for me, that was the first time someone prayed for me in years. And on the same day, these girls gave us a free 4-bedroom hotel, which was probably like more than $1,000 a night if we were paying for it ourselves. And just prayed for you, that was when personally, that was when I like knew the meeting between us was like ordained. I was like, we are meant to travel with these people. Everything's going to work out, and it's going to be an awesome time.
It was.
But from there, we should probably talk about, I think a lot of people watching our socials kind of, at least my parents were under the impression that we just like kicked it in Monaco. And it really was not that. Like, we were stressed because plane tickets were expensive. The cheapest they were like 700 euros, which is like 800 USD. And the most expensive thing we had traded for was train tickets that were about 80 euros. And we did not want to break up. We wanted to stay with you for the rest of it. So we're like, we get 6 plane tickets or we don't go by plane. Yeah. And we knew it was possible because just walking around Monaco, you see the level of wealth. You see billionaires who own yachts. You see billionaires who own private jets. And even Kayla saying in the chat, she was the girl who helped us in Monaco, which we'll tell that story in a second. We wanted to get the plane tickets, and they were constantly going up. So it wasn't like just chilling in Monaco. It was like, oh, we're in this beautiful once-in-a-lifetime experience, and now we have to go harass every rich person we see and try to get them to buy us plane tickets, which was a blessing, but it was also very, very stressful. And then Dash and Charlie, you can come in and tell the story all the way up until speaking on stage.
Yeah, so flashback, first day in Monaco, get the hotel room and come back down. We meet up with each other. It's raining. We're able to put our bags down. We get food. And then Serafina, you went back there to go get food, and they just saw the Red Bull and started pouring up vodka Red Bulls. And that was hilarious. So I had like 1 vodka Red Bull, and we like didn't even drink like the rest of them. And then we walked back out because we're going to go see Max Verstappen speak. And then I remember, but before Max Verstappen spoke, though, we were kind of chatting with Kayla, and she introduced us to the head MC, Gemma Scott, who was the woman who was running like the fan zone, all the interviews and all that stuff. And I just remember standing there and like showing her the map and just like telling her the story of us like sleeping in a park in Turin, Italy, and all that stuff. And she was just like, I was like telling her the story, and she's like kind of like breaking down in front of me, like that this was so amazing. And that was when I realized like what we were doing is like something that is really cool, and that something that people, might want to hear about. And yeah, so then we were ultimately able to tell our story to, I think it was probably like 600, at least. There was a lot of people on that stage.
Quite packed.
Yeah. So Kayla's actually in the chat right now. Kayla was the girl we met in Monaco who worked for the media team, and she was able to get us to speak on stage, which this stage had Max Verstappen on it, which for most Americans who don't know, like me, he's the most famous F1 driver in the world, like millions and millions of followers. People are like lining up at the fence like this, trying to get his attention. And we looked homeless. Everyone else looks mega rich, and we got to go on stage, speak to 200 people. And I remember I think they wanted Serafina as the spokesperson because she was like a girl and a guy, but she let me speak, which was like a really cool moment for me. And that was like, that was the moment that made me change, or that whole day was the moment. It was like, oh, we are winning by experience, because we were having very cool experiences before that, like very rememberable experiences. But that was like, this is a story I'm going to tell people for the rest of my life. Like, I literally spoke after the most famous driver, with 3 complete strangers I met today on the stage, got a free 4-bedroom hotel. And it was like, I really felt like on top of the world that day. Also, I want to shout out our friend from Team Japan is in the chat. And when we arrived, we taught him the abundance dance, and he was there at the start line doing it, and he was there at the finish line, and now he's in the chat. So huge shout out. I don't know which member this is. That's why I'm not saying your name, but shout out from Team Japan for watching. But let's move forward. So,
I was gonna say,
so
we
we're
can
in
talk about
Monaco.
Monaco.
Yeah, we gotta get going here.
Talk about Monaco for days, but long story short, we got very blessed and we were able to get a plane ticket, all 6 of us, we had to go back to Nice all the way to Berlin. So we were in the finish line. That's where the finish line was. But we still had like 2 days, and we both had 3 checkpoints to hit, because to actually make it, you have to hit 5 checkpoints. And our teams actually happened to be on the same route. We still needed to hit 3. And we land in Berlin. We're all just dead at this point, barely even trying to get a hotel. We're like, all right, we're going to just crash on the airport. So we sleep on the floor there. I remember I was in a very deep sleep then. They had to like shake me, to, like wake me up.
Taking you, yeah. Security was on us.
Yeah, they were on us for sure. But I just remember that morning was one of the hardest mornings to try to get tickets out of there to go to the other checkpoints. And that was a point that was really testing my integrity, maybe, because I was like, do we do all the checkpoints? Do we kind of like back out of this? Like I was really close to just being like, let's just stay in Berlin. We're already here, you know?
But thankfully it was Ozzy who was there to tell us. You were so staunch in your view of, we're doing this and we're gonna make it happen. And I was in the same boat as Serafina. I was like, we're in Berlin. I'm so tired. I slept on the floor. I just got woken up by the security. I'm gonna have to walk around this airport and ask a bunch of people for like a train or something to Leipzig. And then Leipzig, how are we going to get out of there? How are we going to get to this other small town of Oberlugowitz? And thank you, Serafina. You were always the person who was sitting down asking somebody, hey, can I use your phone to look at Google Maps? And like when you had looked at the maps and you're like, this is going to be tough. But Ozzy, you were the one who really kind of just like put us all into high gear, and you were just so staunch in your ways, and I'm so thankful for that you didn't like bend or break to our request to just kind of like give in almost. Yeah.
Well, it's like, I mean, when you get to Berlin, you feel like you finished, because it's like you're in the final city. But we did take a flight, and the flight was smart to go there. But the other thing is, I want to touch on that 5 checkpoint rule for people listening. They're probably not necessarily understanding that. Is some cities were like stupid close to Berlin. Like if you started in Amsterdam, you could probably get to Berlin, and like there might be a direct train from Amsterdam to Berlin.
6 hours, yeah.
And for them, they need to have that rule to hit 5 checkpoints, because it's like they could get on one 6-hour train and be done with the challenge in one day. But because they have this 5 checkpoint rule, they have to go country, and they can't just get to Berlin. But people in Barcelona and Dash and Charlie, because you backtracked, getting to Berlin was like nuts in itself. And then we got there and we're like, it doesn't even count. In Red Bull terms, like we could go around saying, oh, we did it. But in Red Bull terms, you did not do it unless you hit 5 checkpoints. And we had to leave Berlin, and the motivation was just not. Serafina was like the clear leader. Something, I don't know what happened, but you just emerged as the person people listen to. You took action, took initiative, and you woke up that morning and you were like, I don't care what we do. Like, I'm down to stay here. And Dash was like, also probably you and Dash were like leading the trades, and Dash was like, I don't care. And Charlie was like, I don't care. And I was like, dude, I really care. And I'm going to be pissed if we don't.
But then we all made the decision. And I go, okay, if we are having 2 hours and we are going to give it every single ounce of energy we got for these tickets, if it doesn't happen, we stay in Berlin. If it does happen, then we are just going to book it. And then for 2 hours getting denied left and right, the whole thing. And then eventually we get some tickets and then we're off to Leipzig. But this was a huge realization for me. Just because you get to the town of the checkpoint does not mean you're at the checkpoint. You still have to take a train, a bus. You have to walk miles. So that was a huge realization for me. But the Leipzig one wasn't too bad. But that one was like kicking a soccer ball into a net, while other checkpoints were skydiving and climbing off buildings. So we didn't hit like maybe the best checkpoints, but it was more so just to say we did it at that point. But then I was like, my only thing was like, are we even being intentional then if it's just to say, hey, we hit a checkpoint, if it wasn't that interesting, while we could experience something else. But we ended up hitting that checkpoint there. And then Leipzig, we met, or Charlie, you met, I'm blanking on his name.
Pablo.
Can you tell how you met Pablo? Because I like don't know actually how that went down.
So just for like the viewers who like kind of understand how we operated as a team. So like the 6 of us, we kind of like split up. Like there'd be 2 people like walk around. We'd be in like the same area always, but we'd like have 2 people that would always, you know, go off individually. So it was like Dash and Serafina, Lucas and Ozzy, and then me and Marco. And so when we were in Leipzig, after we did the challenge, we went back to the train station and we saw how all these other teams were at the train station just struggling. So like, all right, we can't be in the train station right now. We have to go somewhere else. So we end up walking back to the city center, and then we're like, yo, there's this huge wine festival going on. And at this wine festival, there was like, you know, hundreds and hundreds of people. And we get there right before it's like closing down. And Marco and I walk up to this one couple and they're like, no, we don't want to help you, you know? And then I'm like, all right, Marco, let's go talk to these dudes over here. You know, they look young and nice. And so I walk up and I'm like, do you speak English? And Pablo like is sitting here with him and his 3 friends. There's 2 other friends. And his 2 friends are like immediately like, no, no, like we don't want to talk to you type feeling. Yeah. And then Pablo like looks up at me and he's like, yes, of course. He's like, what's up? How are you doing? Like really like bright eyed, like just immediately like super friendly. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And so I give him the pitch. And Pablo, I don't even think I really mentioned the fact that like we had no place to stay. I think I mentioned the fact that we slept in a park in Turin. Mm-hmm. And when he heard me say that, I think it kind of clicked for him. He's like, they might need a place to sleep tonight. And he literally just offered the place for us to sleep right away. And I'm like, immediately, like, there's 6 of us. I'm like, is that okay? And he's like, come on. He's like, I have an unfurnished apartment. He's like, come be my guest. And it was just like, I don't know. It was just the most amazing feeling ever. And like, he just immediately, like, he was just like so personable and so nice. And I'm so glad that Marco and I walked up to him. And it's really funny though, like right when we walked up to him and like asked if he spoke English, like his buddies, I think one of his buddies like worked at the RB Leipzig stadium and was like, I think he was like tired of like having all these Red Bull people come through like all day. He looked exhausted. Yeah. So yeah, his 2 buddies, they paid for their tab for their wine, and his 2 buddies left. And then that's when Pablo stood there with Marco and I, and I'm there on the Xiaomi. I'm like, okay, like, where do you live? How do we get there? And he shows me on Google Maps. I'm like, furiously taking photos of it. And I'm like, I think I've got enough information. And Pablo actually went up to the full extent of like DMing us these photos of like exactly how to get there. Obviously we can't respond to the DMs. So we're just like, I'm seeing all these DMs flood in from Pablo of like exact directions. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Like,
I will say Leipzig almost matched the vibes of Monaco, especially when we were just walking, and then I do my little like dance because this other dude was dancing, and then all of a sudden there's
dance battle,
and that was the most perfect example of energy speaking for itself. We did not speak their language; they did not speak our language.
Yeah,
but we had an amazing like dance battle, and that was definitely a highlight. But for me at that point at Leipzig, it really clicked in my brain that this obviously it's a challenge, but it's just like a game that you just have to play. And I remember going around Leipzig and just being like, not even caring about any rejections or anything. We just kept going and going and going. It was just like a fun game because at that point you literally have nothing to lose. You have nothing to lose. So
the vibes were great too at that wine festival. The vibes were high at that wine festival. Yes. I was just feeling great too.
Super high. Yeah. I'm sorry to do this, but I actually got to go take some photos for Red Bull right now. So I got to get going. But to the kids, you guys were the best teammates we could have ever asked for. And like, seriously, so grateful. Thank you guys for having us on. And like, more importantly, thank you guys for having the best adventure of a lifetime with us. So on that note, I'm going to pass off to Charlie.
Yeah.
Charlie, we're going to wrap it up at 6:15. So
Yeah, no
or
worries.
like this part of the live stream. So yeah, it's hard. I know I could definitely be doing the pacing better. That's why I want to practice these live stream podcasts. But something I wanted to note too was just the way I felt like God kept dropping like crazy things on us. Like you completely separate from me got this kid Pablo to let us stay at his house, and he was Ukrainian. He was wearing a cross, and like 3 hours earlier, I met some girl on the bus, and she
The
didn't
Queen
even
of
speak
the
my language, and
Santiago.
she gave me a bracelet that had the colors of the Ukrainian flag on it, and it had Jesus on it. And that was the same night we go to that kid's house. He has a massive Ukrainian flag up there, and that was a moment. And then also just you guys already mentioned the dance party, but they're not even doing it justice to how crazy that moment was.
Ridiculous.
We walked past strangers, did not speak the same language. They started dancing. We started dancing in response, which is like already pretty cool. But then it like literally morphed into a dance battle. Like Lucas starts hitting breakdance poses.
Yeah.
They start hitting breakdance poses. Dash starts hitting breakdance poses. And like I actually have never seen something like that outside of movies. That was literally, to me, I mean, the speaking on stage in Monaco was definitely a moving moment, but that might have been even more of just like that you don't think that stuff happens in real life. And it did. And that was wild. And then we all spent the night at Pablo's, and we were able to get these train tickets that essentially let us. We had all the transportation done. We could go anywhere in Germany with these train tickets, which meant that we could get back to Berlin, which meant that all we had to do on our last day was get to this town in the middle of nowhere, Uberlungwitz, hit the checkpoint, and get to Berlin. And
We did it.
I don't know if there's anything you guys want to touch on there, but
I mean, I remember after we finished the checkpoint in Leipzig and we walked back to the train station, and we're just walking around and we're seeing all these other teams there, and we're just like, wow, this is gonna be terrible tonight in Leipzig. And we already knew like there's no chance of us sleeping at the Meininger. Like we already asked earlier, the Meininger Hotel in Leipzig, and so we're like, wow, this could be a really tough night. And thankfully we decided to leave the train station, go to the city center where the wine convention was happening. And luckily I was able to just go ahead and approach Pablo, and he embraced us with open arms. And it was just honestly like one of the most wholesome moments ever, just like getting back to his place, putting our bags down, him having potatoes ready for us, and him being like, oh, so sorry about my place. And we're like, we don't care. Like, you don't understand. There's 4 walls and a roof, and just that moment of just, all of us sitting around the table and just chatting. And it was just, I don't know, that was probably the most amazing moment. There's lots of amazing moments like Monaco and, the finish line and the start even, but just that moment at night in Pablo's house was just so amazing. And that was the bracelet right there. So can we talk about the lady on the bus for a moment? She was the queen of the Camino, you called her.
Yeah.
Because she had done the Camino de Santiago. Is that what it's called? The Camino de Santiago? Yeah. She'd done it like what, 50 times or something?
Yeah, and it was crazy because I saw her backpack. I didn't know who she was on the bus, but I saw a backpack with all the Camino stickers, and I was like, I need to find this person after the ride's over because I know we'll relate on the Camino thing. And I sit randomly on the bus, and she's wearing a Camino hat, but I didn't figure that out until after I sat down. So I was like, what are the odds I just go sit next to the person I was like, I have to meet? Which is just like the synchronicities I felt like God was dropping on us were insane. And also just there were so many things that showed me the kindness of humans that trip. But to know that Pablo came from a like war in his country, like that's why he moved to Germany, is because there's war in Ukraine. And he was the one who was like, I like not even thinking about it. Like you can have 6 people in my room, and
it was
he didn't even have a kitchen and stuff. That was like, very inspiring to me. Is like, I want to be like that guy to other people. And that was probably the biggest. So many people helped us, but that to me, that was the greatest like sacrifice of help.
And the fact is like Pablo is like he's not like an old dude with lots of money. Like he's a student from Ukraine. He's 18. And when he said that, I was like, I thought he was like in his like mid 20s, like at least. The way he was able to be so mature was just like really eye-opening, and I was just like, wow, this is awesome. This little kid is willing to give out such a helping hand to these American strangers that he doesn't really know at all. And yeah, now we've all got a best friend in Leipzig, Germany. So yeah, shout out Pavlo Oaks from Ukraine. But yeah, he was the one who ended up helping us get to the end. So thankful for his help and everything he did for us. And just his whole vibe was just awesome. And yeah, it was kind of the best way to cap off the trip.
Serafina, you can take us through to the finish line.
Yeah, basically. So when we were in Leipzig, we had one more checkpoint to go to Oberlungwitz, and long story short, we hit that checkpoint, and then on the way back, this was timing to the T. We ended up getting a 6-person hitchhike, which is wild.
Legendary 6-man hitchhike
on the way back. So we got that, and then the second we get to the train station, I look on like the sheets, and it's like 4:59 is the next train, and it's 4:58. I'm like, run. So then we're all just like hustling. We get on the train. I knew it was going in the right direction. I will say I have a pretty good sense of direction. Like I know which way we're going. So I'm like, it's going to head that way. We're going to go in the right way. And then from there, we ended up making it to Berlin. And then Ozzy met a really kind stranger named Christian on the train who ended up bringing us like across town, showing us all around Berlin, and ended up at a kebab shop. And we deleted, as we would say, that food in 2 seconds. And then it was just, we were at the last night at this point, and we were like, we made it here, but we still have to find a place to stay. And at this point, almost all the teams are in Berlin. So everyone's, of course, trying to figure it out, find places to stay. And as we're kind of just talking all about this, just as we were about to split up on teams to go scavenge somewhere to stay tonight, a group of girls just come up to us and they're like, hey, are you guys with Red Bull? And then we kind of told them our story. And then as a joke, I'm like, yeah, well, not really a joke, but it's true. I was like, yeah, we're homeless tonight. And kind of just pitching it. And then from there, they let us stay at their place, which was so beautiful and so amazing. And they showed us all around Berlin at night. And it was just a beautiful way to wrap up our experience. And then the next day we woke up, hit that checkpoint, and then we all got to cross the finish line together, which was an amazing experience.
Yeah, I think, you mobbed this last 2 days. Just to like touch on some things. The guy who bought us a lot of food, is really interesting because he told me, I'll buy you a kebab. I was the one who talked to him. And he's like, let's walk to it. And we'd probably walked like an hour or like 45 minutes.
Pretty long.
And I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I don't know if we're going to get there and he's going to buy me one kebab, which I still would have been grateful for it. But it's like, we could have spent our 45 minutes better if that's what ended up happening. And a lot of times in this challenge, you don't really know. And we end up getting the kebab shop and he buys 2 rounds of food for all 6 of us. It was probably like 100 euros he spent on us. And it's like things like that are really interesting because there was another time where me and Dash were in Monaco and we sat at a table for an hour and a half and they brought out guacamole and that was it.
Meanwhile, I'm getting baguettes left and right, just handing right.
Yeah.
It's like, that's really interesting concept. And then the other thing I want to mention is that last checkpoint in Berlin was almost as surreal as the finish line, in my opinion, because at that checkpoint was every team and their mom was in that checkpoint. And that was like, okay, we're here with all the winning teams. And at the finish line, people are taking hotels. They're going back to their hotels. So the finish line was super surreal too. But as far as like seeing all the teams making it, I almost think the checkpoint was more surreal. And when we crossed the finish line, that was just meeting the whole trip. We're calling a Red Bull employee and they're like guiding us how to do the challenge, how to stay safe. And we get to meet that person at the end of the trip. I didn't really talk to our person. So Serafina was like, oh, that's Kevin. I was like, oh, hi, Kevin. We didn't talk, but that was really crazy. And then we went to a Red Bull party, which was nuts because it was 900 people from the most social people from 60 countries around the world. And they're all drunk, or like 90% of them are drunk. And Red Bull throws crazy parties where the party's like getting bigger as the night goes on. Like at first it was just outside, and then it became outside and inside. And then they opened up a room that just had unlimited candy. And it was like, how many rooms and dance floors are going to open up here? And that was also just such a fun experience. And we are gonna wrap up this segment by like 6:20. So whatever you guys want to talk about for the last 5 minutes, feel free to throw it out there.
I just want to like touch on like our boy Christian there at the end. Like, I think like the reason why he like really was just like enjoying like the time he spent with us is like at the end, like Christian, like we were just chatting with him. Like I was chatting with him, just asking questions about his life. And I think he told me at the end, he's like, you know what? I was like not expecting my day to go this way, but I'm really enjoying this and I'm really enjoying chatting with you. And I think for him, like what the value that we brought to his like moment in life at that time was just like, we're so interested in him. Like we're so fascinated. I wanted to know more about him. I want to know more about what he does with computers and like what he does for fun. And we talked about rock climbing and music. And like, I was able to give him some recommendations on like stuff to listen to when he's like doing his coding. And just, I think that aspect of like, I think we kind of glossed over that, like this whole trip, like we were, having all these people impress upon us, like their gratitude and like their, they wanted to help us and their sincerity. But I think also this whole trip, like we were bringing something new to people's lives that, if they want to help us, like we were bringing something new and like fresh and exciting where people are like, oh, I can be like a part of this and I can help this team and I can help them make it to the end. And like, for instance, like this lovely couple we met in Turin, Italy, that actually helped us get the bus tickets to Nice. Like we were about to give up and they literally, they saved us. Like they were just listening to us. And I think just that whole aspect of this trip, how everybody got to, maybe make somebody's day, like Christian, for instance, just by like chatting with them and just, having a good time over some kebabs, it was just really, really nice and really refreshing. I think a lot for us and for all the other people that we met. So yeah, it was just fantastic to have so many different conversations with so many different people from so many different backgrounds. And what made me feel really good is like I made their day like better, and something that they won't forget ever. And the same thing happened to me, and it was just awesome.
You bring up a really good point, especially like me as a Christian. I'm always thinking, how can I give to people? And like I have like the college bank account. Like I don't have anything in my bank account. I don't. And so it's like you think so much of like giving as like, oh, I give people money, or like I give them my like time and service. And that trip really taught me is like you don't know what kind of like energy or the people they're interacting with on a regular basis, and you can come be this light in their life by just being fun. Like just being fun and bringing that funness into their lives. And it's like, I think why we had so many awesome experiences happen to us, such as, getting to speak on stage, or the random dance party, or the free meals, or the hotel rooms, is because we were fun to be around. And that was like something me and Serafina and Lucas were super aware of. And when we met you guys, we knew you were aware of it too. And that is like, how can you give when you have nothing? And if you can bring that into someone's life, you can give them something that's actually extremely valuable. Serafina, do you have any final thoughts?
There's so many final thoughts. I mean, Charlie hit it really well with how important the strangers were this entire trip. I could name a good amount of them off the top of my head, just because there's so many that were just willing to do this for us. They had no reason. They could be, no, get out of my face. But for some reason, we brought the energy and they just wanted to help us, which was so beautiful and made me just realize how much more I need to be giving back, whether that's time, money, energy, and effort. And truly listening to people and hearing them out. Because yes, we did have to talk to people with an incentive of what we had to get from them. But then you get to a point where like, this isn't even a stranger. This is my friend now. Like you feel like they're your friends and you don't have to put a mask on for anything. You can just be authentically you, because it doesn't matter. You're in a country, you don't know anyone. In a different country, don't know anyone. And just thinking about it is so weird. It just feels like a dream. The next feels like a fever dream. That's all I can say.
I think just the fact that we were, as Americans in Europe, especially, my whole intention when I was going into this, I was like, okay, I'm going to be running around probably the streets of Italy and Germany and wherever else I end up. And I'm just going to go all out because I don't care. I don't care what people think of me. Like that was my mindset. Like, I can't care what others are like viewing me as, or if I go up to them and they like scoff at me, I can't, like, I had no time to think about that. And so just going into this challenge, like my whole mindset was just completely flipped on its head of just me putting myself out there completely. And it ended up working perfectly. And I'm definitely continuing that mindset as I've come back of just putting myself out there and seeing what the world gives back and not being afraid not being afraid to shy away from, any challenge that comes up. And that's what you touched on, Serafina, just like giving back and bringing this energy, bringing this fun. It might be a little bit hard at times. You might be tired. You might be running off of 0 hours of sleep, slept on a cold, hard floor, and you've only had like a piece of bread for breakfast. But, you just gotta, you can't give up, and you always have to be smiling, and you always have to bring that energy, and good things will come. And it worked out every time. Yeah. But every time though, it worked out only because we gave that little bit extra effort, that push, and we were able to do it. But we wanted to give up, but we didn't.
I'm gonna add the next team to the stage because I give them a start time. If you guys want to stay and say hi for a couple of minutes, you can. If you want to leave, you can. At like 6:30, I'm gonna go into a deep interview with them where I'm gonna just ask them how did they win this thing. But for the next 5 minutes or so, you guys are welcome to stay.
Hello.
What's up?
Team.
What up, y'all?
Just to
I will
introduce.
say, the second I saw you guys in Barcelona, I literally was like, this team's, they just brought the energy and looked like you guys were just ready to win, like from the start.
For the audience, Jacob and Weston are part of Team Gladiators, and they won the whole thing. And I'll say straight up, we'll get into this when I talk to you guys more, but when me, Serafina, and the Mad Lads were traveling, we were like, the first place team has to be cheating. They have to be cheating. And when I met you guys and talked to you in person, I was like, no, they didn't cheat. Because you could just like feel how your energy was and how good you guys were and how dialed and stuff in. So I'm really excited to get into like the winning strategy in a couple minutes here. But yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself, guys.
Jacob, you got it.
Yeah, my name is Jacob Mathismeyer. I'm from Houston. I live in Los Angeles now. And part of Team Gladiators with Weston.
Yeah, I'm Weston. I'm in San Francisco area now, but we both originally met from Texas A&M University, and I was also another member of Team Gladiators.
Serafina and Dash, do you guys have any questions for them before I do my interview with them?
Well, I just want to say thank you, Ozzy, for chatting with us. I really appreciate it. And no, my only question for you, I don't know which one of you said it, but I was not in the room at the end of the night when you guys went up on stage. And Dash told me he was in the room, but one of you guys gave a really good quote that kind of used like the "Can you make it" thing in it. And I just wanted to know if you could tell me what that quote was, because I really want to hear it. And yes, I just want to hear it.
Yeah, I said that quote at the end, but I cannot take credit. David said this while we were, I think, at like a low or something in the middle of the trip. And I was like, man, I hadn't heard it in a long time. And maybe it was in the back of my brain. But David looked at me and Weston and said, if you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're probably right. And we all can, baby. We all made it. That's what I said at the end. That's, I guess, my little touch at the end. But that's David Greek right there, all our third.
I love that.
So
if you think you can, and if you think you can't, then you probably
right.
You're probably right. Well, thank you for telling me that. You guys enjoy the rest of your session with Ozzy here. I'm going to go ahead and dip, but thank you for imparting that upon me. I wish I could have been in there to hear it. I was outside for some reason. But yes, congratulations once again, you guys. You absolutely crushed it. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the show. See you guys.
Bye, Charlie.
Thank you.
I'm also gonna head out, but all I would say is I'm happy the USA team won. That's all I'm that bus ride going from wherever to like to the after party of all of us like chanting like the national anthem. That was such a highlight. I love that. That was
Dude, yeah, because there was so much spirit from the other countries. I remember being at the last checkpoint in Berlin, and all the French people are singing something, and all the Spanish people are singing something, and I was like, you guys were the only chance Americans were gonna win. And I don't know why, like, I even cared that much, but I was like, dude, we better win. And when you guys won, it was just like we all won, but I was like, I'm so happy that it was the American people who won. So you guys really represented us well there for sure.
Yeah, Ozzy, thank you for doing all this. This would not have happened if it wasn't for you just putting it together. So appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely need to get better at orchestrating points in the live stream. It's like it's such a different flow.
It's practice. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can do anything. After this trip, my mindset is like, if you can do what you just did, you can do anything.
Yeah.
You can ease the podcast right now. This is the easiest thing you'll probably do compared to
yeah, for sure.
All right, I'll see you guys later. Have a good one.
All right. So, winners, what is good? I think I'm just gonna refer to you guys as the winners. My mom literally said in the chat, "Hello, winners." That's funny. The way I see this going is like I want to be able to put a clip because I have a clip channel too. Like this will go on my YouTube channel, but then I have a clip channel, and I want to have a clip that says like how the winning team won Red Bull. Can you make it? So I'm gonna do my best. I think as a participant, I'll know the right questions to ask you guys, but I'm gonna try to like. I want whoever wants to win the next one to come watch this interview and be like, all right, this is like what we do. So first, I'm just going to go ahead and explain the rules for anyone listening, because if someone clicks on the video, they're not going to know. Essentially, we did something called Red Bull Can You Make It? It's a challenge between 300 teams, 60 countries around the world. And it's not a race. We started in a variety of cities and we're all racing to Berlin, but the winner is not who gets there first. The winner is who gets the most points. You get points from posting vlogs. You get points from doing these video challenges, like go break dance with strangers, go sing on a train, whatever. But you really get like winning points. You get the most points from checkpoints. And checkpoints are these tables or these events, these activities that Red Bull sets up in all the countries. So there's 17 countries that they had them in. Sorry, my dog's freaking out. Sorry about that. So checkpoints are where you get the real big winning points. What I didn't know when we started the challenge, I didn't know this, was that they did not make this clear to us, is that you get the most points by going to the checkpoint furthest away from your last checkpoint. So if you want to win the challenge and you start in Barcelona, where we all start in Barcelona, you'd basically want to go to the checkpoint in Poland, which is on the complete other side of the map. We didn't know that was how it worked. And even when we figured that out, we thought that once you crossed to the other side of the map, like let's say you flew to the other side, that you would just be rinsing points the whole time. We didn't know it was like you go to a checkpoint there and then it restarts. And now the highest point checkpoint is the furthest away one. So we were really playing to win too. But after the second day, when we realized that we didn't cross the entire map on an overnight bus or a plane, we were like, we don't even have a chance, because every team that's in first place is already taking a plane or an overnight bus. But I remember we got toward the end and we're looking at your map, and the map literally looks like friggin' stars because you guys are playing to win. And we're like, how can they do this without cheating? I'm like, dude, if I had unlimited money, could I do what these guys just did? So hopefully the people listening, it makes sense how you would win the challenge. And you guys just ask you, when you started, were you aware of that was how it worked, and what was your strategy day one, and how did it change?
I think our strategy day one, it very much so evolved. So I guess to give some background of our kind of mindset and idea of this, we essentially we reached out to the winners. We found them, the winners of 2018 on LinkedIn, and reached out to them. And we just asked them, okay, like, what worked for y'all? What didn't? Break us down a day, like, in the competition for y'all. And pretty much they gave us some really good tips. But for their day in, day out, they said, try and hit 2 to 4 checkpoints. And then also try and do 10 challenges a day. And so that was our huge, like, those are the numbers that we wanted to hit that we think we needed to in order to win. But our first idea of getting out of there was trying to go to the closest checkpoint, like everyone else was out of Barcelona. Like we were the first team to the train station, the first team with train tickets, but the train got delayed for like 2.5 hours, and it really changed our mindset of us trying to figure out, well, if we're not going to hit a checkpoint today, we're already at a deficit. Is there any way we can make up like this loss? And that was when we like soon realized what you said. You realized maybe on the second or third day was like our biggest like point adder here that we could do is just get as far away as we can. And so that's why we like the train literally rolled up and we walked out of the train station right when it pulled up and we went straight to the airport. So we took a huge risk, but I think that was when we like first realized that that was something that we needed to do, and something that we could have put towards like our strategy. I don't know if Jacob, you want to elaborate on that?
No, that you said it great. That's 100% exactly what happened. We had the framework from the guys that won before us. And then when, stuff didn't work out and other teams caught up to us and we're like, okay, if we want to win, we can't, as much as we love the other teams, we can't be at the exact same position as most of the other teams. So we went to the airport, and the running joke as we continued the week was that when in doubt, when we're at a low, just go far, because we were good at going far. So
what was it like trading for that first plane ticket? Because that was on day one. You're like not warmed up. You don't have the skills. Although day one went pretty well for us as well. But just curious, you get to the airport and how does that go down?
I think, yeah.
I love this part. I got it. Okay. So Weston had just talked to a guy. We were at the airport bartering for tickets for maybe like 4-ish hours. We got there around 5. The ticket box closed at 9. And one of the first things we did was we went up to each of the people that ran, the baggage spots where you check in a bag, and no luck at all. But then we went to Vueling, which is like the Spirit Airlines of Europe in a way.
Yeah.
And asked for their cheapest and furthest tickets. And we saw that there was one for €53 to Venice, which is like 60 something bucks, and one for €55 to Hamburg. And those were the 2 furthest, cheapest flights we can get. So we said, all right, let's go for those. And we did that for an hour or 2 and have no success at all. And it was just like, it was tough. And I mean, Weston, you can tell them your story of right before the clutch moment happened, but.
Yeah, I essentially I pitched this guy. We've been kind of low. It's a bunch of rejections. I finally go up to this guy. I pitch him. He listens to me the whole thing, and then he gives me about a 10-minute lecture of how Red Bull shouldn't be doing this competition. How Red Bull is a big enough company, they should be paying for our flight expenditures and everything, and they shouldn't be taking advantage of the middle class Europe. And so I'm sitting there. I'm pretty defeated. Because I'm like, and I go up to Jacob and I'm explaining him this whole thing. I'm like, dude, I don't think this is going to work. And then pretty much, yeah, Jacob, you can finish this part.
Yeah, no, we were both like, oh my gosh, this is way harder than expected. And we walk down in the Barcelona airport. You see this escalator that kind of comes up and you can like see people appear. And we turn the corner and we see David with his gladiator cap and a full family, like a mom, a dad, and a little girl. And they're just like, we got tickets. And me and Weston were like, oh my gosh. So that was like a clutch moment because we were kind of down after Weston had that conversation. Yeah. And then he ended up getting tickets and a checked bag. And they were like, wait, we only need 2 more. And then Weston came in clutch and met a great family, Mario, who ended up really helping us out. But that was kind of how it kickstarted it.
A question I have for you as well. So like we actually wanted to go to the Barcelona airport as well. That was like our game plan was we wanted to go to Monaco, which we did. We wanted to fly there. But the problem we ran into was that we had massive bags, and it makes those cheap flights stupid expensive. Did you guys have massive bags, or did you have backpacks that would qualify as carry-ons?
I would say we were a mix. David definitely was like our pack mule and had a huge bag. Jacob, it's really funny. Like there was a team literally at the start of the Barcelona like start line that came up with a GoPro and filmed Jacob and was like, "This guy has the smallest bag. What do you have to say about that?" It kind of put him on
That's
blast.
funny.
It did.
And then mine was kind of in the middle, but we were super fortunate that we got the one checked bag for David because anything that we had extra, we just put on David's checked bag and strapped it down as tight as we could, like our skateboards and everything.
That's
Um,
smart.
but Viewling's like not carry on, but like their personal item was actually kind of huge. It was nuts that like I
Mm,
could fit pretty much my bag minus like my sleeping bag in it like super easily, and they were cool with it. Like, but I don't think like I think we heard another team be the one they had they had trouble with bags. They ended up missing
yeah.
a flight because they couldn't get on the plane because of their baggage.
If I was recommending someone who's listening to this who wants to win the next one, I'd probably recommend either all going with small carry-on backpacks or what they did, having one guy with a big backpack that you can strap it onto. Because there was like multiple times where we definitely could have secured a flight, but we just couldn't because of the cost of baggage, and that definitely held us back. But anyways, let's move. Day 2, you wake up and wait, did you fly to a different starting point, or was it Hamburg, or where did you fly to?
Hamburg, I'd probably say like 1 or 2 checkpoints away from Copenhagen. So we were
Yeah,
very close to another start point, but it was kind of nice because we were the first team pretty much in that, I think second team in that town. So we
that
started
was the other
fresh.
other thing. I wasn't aware that if you went to another starting point, you would get 1,000 points. And I don't know if I was just snoozing during the like uh, explanation meeting, but I was taking notes. I actually for sure wasn't snoozing because I wanted to win. Like I said, I was taking it really seriously, but I was not aware that the checkpoint was the furthest away, and I wasn't aware that you got bonus points for getting to a different starting location. So like by the time I came aware of this on day 3, I was like, there's no chance. Not that I don't think we would have won anyways, but so you get there to the next city the next day, and that's probably where like tell me about looking at the leaderboard the first time because there's 300 teams.
Well, so we got to Hamburg, and you don't get points for going to like a different starting point. I think you get like 150, but the points we got were all from, you got 1 point for every kilometer you traveled. So I
Yeah,
think we traveled like 1,500 kilometers with that flight. And so that plus the 250 for getting to a normal checkpoint gave us, a lot of points. But it was funny. We got to Hamburg, and of course, the front desk is broken and we can't load our checkpoint points. So we're at like less than 100 points, basically. I forget how much we had, but we were like not in contention, and it didn't load until later that day when we were on our way to Hanover. And then when it loaded, we all of a sudden just appeared in like the top 3 or 4, right, Weston?
I think we went straight to 1, or it was like 1 or 2, because I remember taking a screenshot because I was like, I gotta let this like moment, I gotta like soak this moment in because I don't know how long we'll have this position.
Yeah.
But we essentially did the whole checkpoint and everything, and we're going to our next city and had no points. I think we're sitting at like maybe like 200th on the like team boards before they
yeah.
finally put our points in.
I was told, just to touch on that one thing, Jacob, I was told if you went to a different starting point, you got 1,000 points.
No, it
We
was
did that.
150. We ended up going to Budapest at the like tail end of our trip. But it was kind of weird because you'd only get 150, but you could never log your miles to it because there was anywhere to check in. It was just a challenge, if that makes sense.
Oh wait, so you weren't getting kilometer points if you didn't hit a checkpoint?
Yeah, so it was straight line distance from your last checkpoint. So we could have traveled to Hamburg and then left there and gone somewhere else. And then like if that's where we checked in, that was your straight line distance. So
Really?
it was
I didn't
definitely
know
worth it
I
to
didn't know
like,
that was how it worked.
yeah. So like if you're in a city, it was ideal to check into like the checkpoint there.
Okay, that's really also valuable information for people watching. So I'm sure like it sounds like you guys were playing for the win for the start, but then you jumped to number one. Jacob, go ahead and show the map.
Oh no, I was just gonna say you can kind of see it here, but when we started in Barcelona way down here, like
Yeah.
as much as we tried to travel to this checkpoint here, none of that counts. All they count is the straight line from checkpoint to checkpoint. They don't track your
Okay.
GPS or anything. So,
Wow.
even if we traveled to random city in France and then over here, they're only going to track the straight point. So you can't really see
Okay.
it mirrored, but
So I see. So yeah, well, that's really useful to know if you're watching to win right now. You got to log into the checkpoints to get the most distance points. So
Yeah.
you guys jumped to number one, and then I'm assuming you guys got like a boost of like, wow, we could actually win this. How does it go from there?
I would say like the first couple of days were pretty smooth. Like the first 3 days were smooth sailing because now we're like essentially one of the only teams in Germany now. So every checkpoint we're going to is like pretty much fresh. They've never seen a team, so they're all excited to be there. You don't have to wait in any line. And also like a big plus was that none of the train stations have heard of the challenge before. So talking to train conductors and not even having to like convince for tickets, but rather just going straight to the platform and saying, "Hey, this is our challenge. Like this is what we're doing. Can we get on the train?" We were like the first person to ever ask them pretty much in every checkpoint in Germany
Mm,
that we hit. So it was like you didn't have anybody to compete against. It was just you against like the world at that point. So we had
oh,
very good luck traveling until we hit Paris, and that was I think the night there or like third night is when we hit Paris.
wait, that's like a good thing I should touch on. So basically by the end of the trip, for people listening, they literally said don't go up to train conductors in Germany because so many people were in Germany that it was like this is starting to feel really illegal. Like you have 300 kids from Red Bull. Yo, can we get free train tickets? So I had heard it was a good idea to ask conductors. We never actually did it that way. But yeah, when you flew straight to Germany, so you're like one of the only teams there, and so everyone's just saying yes. And then also the other thing is that when you go to a checkpoint that a lot of teams are at,
exactly what I was
unless you're first in line, you're wasting like 2 to 3 hours waiting for everyone to go. So you guys were just rinsing all the Germany checkpoints because no one was in line. So that also makes sense. Anyways,
Yeah.
advanced.
By the time they sent that text you were talking about, we were already out of Germany. So like we did our like
Yeah.
part and we're already gone. So that was kind of nice.
Yeah.
And so you get to Paris. What day is Paris?
So I believe Paris is night of our third night. I think it was our third night. We get there like super late, maybe 1 o'clock. Actually, no, it's our fourth night because we hit 2 checkpoints in Germany. We hit Hamburg and Hanover, which are very good.
Yeah.
And then from there we went to what were the next two? It was like Munster and
the
then
bike capital, and then Cologne.
Cologne. Yes.
Wait, another thing I want to ask: did you have any like horrible sleeping situations the first few days?
I think that was one thing we gave up to win.
Oh yeah.
What like just go through night 1, night 2, night 3. Like where do you sleep each night? You can make it quick or long or whatever.
Night 1, we slept in the airport from like 2 a.m. to 4:35. Yeah, 4:30. We set the alarm to make sure we got there on time. But we were sleeping on the cold ground of an airport that was half outside, half inside. between a parking
Yeah.
lot and the airport. Second night was in Hanover, and we actually bartered for a luxury hotel. Probably we were actually unsuccessful bartering for train tickets, and then we missed the last train, and we were like, crap. And the first hotel we saw was a luxury hotel. Met a guy that was gracious enough. His name was Christian, to get us tickets or to buy our hotel. And so we got pretty.
Nice.
Did we get good sleep last night? We probably still. We had a 4
You
a.m. train.
didn't. He slept maybe for like 2 hours because he was like very nice to Christian and kept talking to him forever. But David and I maybe got 4 hours.
Yeah.
Jacob got like 2 hours of sleep that night still.
Yeah, I ended up hanging in the lobby with Christian for a while, and just chatting it up. We had a beer. It was a good time. But yeah, we didn't sleep too much, and we had a 4 a.m. train the next day to get to the next checkpoint before anyone would be there, and no one was there in Munster because we were the only ones in Germany basically at that time.
Yeah.
But the night after that, we slept in a hostel again from like 1 until whenever. It was really late, but those were our only 2 beds the whole trip.
Oh, wow.
So after that, it was catch your sleep on a bus, on a hitchhike, or there was one time later on when we got to Budapest where we literally just got a train or got a bus from 11 to 2, waited in Budapest from 2 to 4, and then had a tram from Budapest to a satellite checkpoint. So it was like sparse sleep, especially towards the end. We gave it up. We another little thing. We looked at each other one time, and we're just like, man, you know, usually when I talk to Weston and David, we kind of get into the personal stuff, like how are you doing in life, how are you doing things, yada yada yada. We didn't talk about any of that. We were on a mission, and it was like in this utopian society of all you can see on your phone. There's no social media. There's no distractions. There's no service. There's no cash, no credit. There's nothing to distract you besides this competition. So it became like sleep's not important. We need to go. We need to like win. So
yeah, sleep is kind of a double-edged sword because not having a lot of sleep, it helps you in 2 ways, which it helps you obviously that you can travel more, you can go hit more checkpoints. And then it sometimes helps you in conversations because you're telling someone, oh, we're traveling, trading Red Bull for food, sleep, and they see how tired you are. And they're like, okay, clearly this person's doing what they say they're doing. And like, I can help them out. But it also, like on the other edge of the sword, sometimes you just, when you start the challenge, you have good sleep, you can like hit your pitches like this. And sometimes you're pitching someone and you're so tired that they're like, this, I don't want to talk to you. You're scaring me. And that's where, and then you're less efficient in your movements and stuff. So it is totally a double-edged sword, but I mean, I think you have to do it if you want any chance at winning. So you guys get to Paris. How does it go from there? Why was Paris hard?
I think Paris is like by far, like if you're ever in a city that you have only Red Bull to trade, Paris is probably the hardest place to get out of. I think a lot of teams struggled. So like first thing, we get there probably at like 12:30 at night. So trying to find a stay took us maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours to finally get situated for the night. We decide to get to the checkpoint early. We get there early, but there's like 5 other teams. No big deal. But the way the Paris checkpoint was set up is that you had to like they waited to conglomerate like 9 or 10 teams before we could move on and actually do what they wanted us to, which was film like a rap song.
Yeah.
And so we get there maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours before the checkpoint opens. And they don't even let us start the checkpoint until about like 2 hours after the checkpoint's been open. So like 10, because they wanted to wait for all the teams to get there. So that was kind of rough. And then from there, like we said, our bread and butter at this point has been going up to the train conductors, talking to them, telling them what we can do. Like this is what we want to do. And all Paris was the only city we ran into this, but every single like train platform you had like swinging gates that you had to have a ticket to get up to. So we couldn't pitch to people, and the train tickets out of there, since it was a weekend, were like 60 plus euros. So that was like, I mean, we essentially bought flights for cheaper than that. So we got stuck for until like 5:30, and then yeah, Jacob, you can tell the rest of this because this is you.
Yeah, no, we were definitely like, we bartered with one guy while we were at those train stations, and it was probably like 4:30, and it was one of the last trains again, and they were all super expensive. But there was another team in the top 10 right next to us, and we
Yeah.
got this one guy to go talk to the conductor for us, and he was like coming back and forth telling us like, "Oh, we're gonna get y'all in. We're gonna wait and see." But then the train
Yeah.
conductor looks at us and then just walks into the train takes off, and they're like, "Sorry guys." So right after that, we just were like, what the heck can we do? That we thought that was like our last option, but we heard that some of the guys took overnight buses from one of the other checkpoints to get to Paris, and we were like, okay, what if we try that out? So from that point on, yeah, it's like 5:30 or so. We go to the bus stop, Flixbus, and we love Flixbus. But we go
Yeah.
to Flixbus, and we see another team was there right before us, and we're like, oh, it's like, they probably already bartered for tickets or something. But they're leaving. They're like, oh, we just got some tickets for 5 a.m. the next day. So we're like, oh, if we leave at 5 a.m. the next day, we would probably, lose out on a lot of points, or, get out
Yeah.
of 5 top 10, whatever. And so we go up to the front, and they were just the sweetest people behind there, which we hadn't dealt with as much because most stuff was expensive in the main part of Paris. Flixbus was a little bit cheaper. And I remember me, Wes, and David, we just go up to the wall to talk to them. And I'm talking to them, telling them about this Red Bull competition. And they can tell we're just kind of like out of energy. And we also tell them that we're in the top, 3 people, and this is our last resort. They thought we were just kind of funny wearing our gladiator caps. And eventually, like, Weston whispered something to me. He was like, we're just trying to get as far as we can. And then I just throw the Red Bulls on the table, and I'm like, we'll give you all of this. We're just trying to get as far away from Paris as we possibly can. And they loved it. They came out, and we gave them some Red Bulls and gave them big hugs. And they gave us tickets to Salzburg, which is way a ways away from Paris, that left from like 30 minutes from when we talked to them. So we got really, really lucky in the timing of that bus.
Thanks. That probably was like a huge proponent to you guys winning. Sorry, I got distracted here because Jared, Jared, the guy who picked all the USA teams, he said he was down to join, but he's like, I have to leave at 7. Originally, I thought he was going to come on at 7. So I'm texting him in case he can join for like 5 minutes and ask, like, just say what up, because it would be cool to have an appearance from him.
No problem.
But that's why I'm.
No worries.
I'll keep. Sorry. Anyways, so you get to Salzburg. Something I want to ask you as well is like the variety in. This is not like necessarily for winning purposes, but I remember, so we traveled with the Mad Lads. We went from Barcelona. They went from Milan. And our starting checkpoint in Girona was literally to climb on each other and make a human tower. Like, it was mad lame. And their starting checkpoint challenge was to go in like Juventus Stadium, and it was like sold out, or like it was like completely empty. It's one of the most famous soccer stadiums in the world. And they're like announcing their names and they're shooting goals and stuff. And then we also saw a bunch in Germany that looked super dope, like walking down the wall and doing the water jumps. You guys hit 14 checkpoints, I believe. What was like the most fun ones?
I would probably say, you're talking about Germany, Hanover, our second one that we hit there. It was a wake park. And we got there like right when it was closing. So they were like right when 5 o'clock was about to roll around. We were the first team. They're excited to see us. And they were like, let's do it. And I've wakeboarded, Jacob's wakeboarded, David's wakeboarded before. So this was like one of those like great way to end the day. They brought us pizza. And we wakeboarded for like 2 hours, maybe 2 hours too long, but it was one of those that like we had like so much fun there. They were excited to see us. They were teaching us how to do some jumps on the wake park, like giving us tips. They let us do like, they climb up the entire thing and jump off the top of the actual like equipment that they had. It was nuts. Yeah.
Sorry, because Jared has to leave in 5 minutes. We're gonna let him. Jared, I'm here with the winners. Your mic is currently muted, but if you want to say what up to them.
Yeah, what's up, y'all? Good to see y'all. This is a super cool idea. Wow, I love that y'all are doing it. What's going on?
What's up, Jared?
Just to explain who Jared is, Jared ran Team USA. So everyone who competed in the challenge, who's from America, went through Jared. Jared, what was your what was the whole process like? What was watching it like, picking us like? I know you only have 5 minutes, but just to get into it.
Yeah, of course. I'd also say it wasn't just me. We had a whole team looking after y'all and making sure everything was falling into place. So I'll take credit, but not all of it. Not all of it.
Yeah.
During the week, I mean, I was like addicted. I was addicted to my phone, watching all the content y'all were posting along throughout all 7 days. I remember it was because it was all Instagram stories. I remember I would just literally prop my feet up at my desk, get on Instagram, and just scroll through everything y'all were doing. And I was getting whiplash. I was going from people bumming it on the streets to people living in hotels or taking planes. So it was just wild to see how different all 19 teams were taking this experience. It was very special.
Wow. What did you think about the Gladiators when they started to seem like they could win the whole thing, and Team USA? I mean, you probably wanted a Team USA team to win since that was your territory.
Of course. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe. Like, I remember it was probably day 2 when y'all made it to like the top 5 or something. I was like, "There's no way, there's no way," because there was like this team from Egypt that was like right neck and neck with you, and then sure enough, you stayed up there all the way to the end. And I was rooting for y'all, and I could tell that y'all kicked it up a notch too. Once you saw that y'all had it, you were like, "Okay, time to get some distance and time to make it happen." It was sweet.
Yeah. Yeah. I was really, I think USA, I think you have an advantage that you have really good English, and all those countries speak English, or a lot of them do. But I mean, there is a lot of European teams where, like, if you live in Europe and you're really social, you have connections all over Europe. And obviously, you can't direct message, but um, a lot of Europeans speak multiple languages. They have connections. If you run into your connections, you can utilize them. So it did feel like, and also a lot of Europeans just have stereotypes against Americans, depending where you're at. So it was like, we thought it was pretty surprising that an America team was able to win it all. And it was super exciting when they won it. Like, we're also, I don't know if you saw any of the videos, Jared, or I'm sure you saw them in the chat, but the whole week, like, all the French and Spanish teams were singing their national anthems and stuff, and the USA teams were not like congregated. We're all split up at the different starting points, and they put us on a bus together to the after party. Like, it was all just America teams, and everyone started singing the Star Spangled Banner, and it was like the loudest I've ever heard the Star Spangled Banner get sang. And someone stood up after we sang it all, and they were like, "What do you say we do that when we get to the after party?" And everyone was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And then we got to the after party, and all, like, I don't know if like Europeans have seen like Americans do that, because everyone's faces were like, "What are these Americans doing?" when we were singing the Star Spangled Banner. We were just so hype, and then they won, and it was crazy.
Yeah, I saw the videos. I was like, oh, it was really cool to see. It was also just cool to see that all y'all got together on the bus too, because we were, as a team, we were like working with all 19 of y'all, and it was cool that there was a moment where y'all all were able to get together. So that was really special too.
I thought that was a really nice touch of Red Bull, like, to intentionally put all the USA teams together at the end. It felt like just even the attention to detail to do that, because it's like being able to make those connections before you go back to America. It's like you could make friends with the other countries, but then you're most likely not going to see them again. And so it just shows how detail oriented Red Bull is to consider something like that.
Thank you. There's a lot of people. I'm sure when y'all were talking to Central Command. A lot of people went into this, you know. So there's a lot of eyes and a lot of people just making sure that y'all felt safe and y'all were having fun. And I'm glad both were true. Both were true.
Any final thoughts, Jared? I know you gotta leave.
No real final thoughts. Just thank y'all for being a part of the event for a lifetime. I hope y'all got. It seems like y'all did get a lot out of it, because what we get to do is all about y'all as students and y'all as individuals. So as long as y'all had a good time and felt like it was worthwhile and meaningful, then our job is done, and we did what we wanted to do.
I would say the adventure of a lifetime was an understatement. It was even greater than that. All right. Well, Jared's gonna pop off now.
Very cool.
Thank you
Great.
for coming on, Jared. I appreciate you making those 5 minutes. All right. Back to the interview. His voice went all AI mode at the end there. Okay. So coolest checkpoints. Hanover, you got to do the wakeboarding. Hamburg, you got to climb down the building. You said you went to Salzburg, so did you get to do the plane one? Or
No, they changed it right before, but it was still super awesome. We got to play a FIFA player in Red Bull Arena, which is like their soccer stadium that they sponsor there, and they had us on like the jumbotron. We got to play against them, except we almost lost that checkpoint because all of us suck at FIFA. So that was a little bit more nerve-wracking than anything, but it was still a really cool area to be.
wait, so you're playing FIFA on the jumbotron
On the
in the stadium?
jumbotron. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
like the
yeah.
Salzburg Red Bull soccer team or football team, and we were in the massive stadium playing on the
Wait,
big screen.
was that the one though where there was a plane that landed on water?
Originally, yeah, they have
Yeah.
like I think it's called Hangar 7 or something, but they have like all their Red Bull planes there. But it became too much of a choke point. That's why they switched it up.
Yeah, people would be there for like 5 hours just
Yeah.
waiting. So they switched it our day for some reason.
I mean, that could have been a blessing for you guys because if you got caught up 5 hours, you might not have won.
Yeah,
That's right.
100%.
So at this point, you're neck and neck. There was one team, the Egyptian Pharaohs, who were really neck and neck with you the whole time. Was there any other teams that were like? Because I only heard about you two teams. I mean, I wasn't like scrolling the leaderboard all the time, but I remember every time I looked, I didn't really feel like there was. I felt like it was just you two. Was there other competitors you guys were worried about?
There was a few actually, like because one thing, the Egyptian Pharaohs always had a ton of challenge points. We kind of saved a bunch of ours, but there were other teams that didn't have as much challenge points as well, and that kind of meant you could do a lot of those without doing checkpoints or doing the same amount of checkpoints as other teams. But Money Powers was one of them. The Sloths was another. And you might remember a few of the others, Wes.
I think those were like the two main that like always had our eyes on. There's one team called the Challengers that I remember, and I think I think in total for challenges there was like 6,500 points total, and they had like 6,000 of them. So that was like very funny to see. But yeah, we were a little bit more worried on teams that traveled close to as far as us at the time, because we knew there was always going to be a cap of the amount of challenges you could do. But if these teams have been traveling consistently like us, like eventually they're going to do the challenges as well, like we did. So those were the teams that were kind of like a little bit more like they might not be number one the whole time, but had a lot more potential. It's like a March Madness bracket when like a team still has like 8 teams left in the bracket rather than the team that's number one, but they have like 1 or 2 teams left. So
Interesting. So did you guys end up doing like literally every adventure challenge?
Not everyone, because some of them were so hard, like dining in a Michelin star restaurant. That takes time and it's hard. We tried 4 or 5 times to find a fire truck to go ride in for a challenge, and we're unsuccessful on that one. So we didn't end up getting all of them, but we definitely got close. Like we got majority of them. We got pretty much every 50-point challenge. We missed a few 150 and a few 100-point challenges.
We just
But
knew
There
we
was
had to be competitive in those categories. Like if the team that's number one or around there has 6,500, like we have to be as close as we can to them, because then like we knew we were going to beat everyone on travel regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some like I mean Red Bull did an incredible job, but like a little bit of the point system, like it would be like get invited to a stranger's wedding, 50 points, and it's like yo, should be like 2,000 points.
Yeah, I don't know why that was 50. That was nuts.
Yeah,
we
so
actually saw a wedding at one place, and we were like, "Wait a minute!" But we were like, "50? Nah, let's not."
Yeah, it's not worth it. So dang, so you guys had mad travel points. I'm trying to think of. I mean, I'm gonna have you take me all the way to the end here, but I'm trying to think if there's any questions that like points of contention. There is 5 people watching, so if anyone's watching and you're like, I do not understand this, how they won, or I have a question, please drop it below. But anyways, you get to Salzburg on day 5. Where does it go from there?
Well, Salzburg, we hit our checkpoint good. It's getting to the point where we're trying to like, we're realizing if we want to win, we're gonna have to have a day where we hit like 3 checkpoints, or we're gonna have to do some like remote checkpoints, or do something to like make us stand out a little bit. So we're like, Vienna will put us in a good spot. So we traveled from Salzburg to Vienna, like all the way through Austria, and we hit Vienna that night, and realized that like that wasn't gonna be our night to actually do 3 checkpoints. But it was such like a pivotal city that we're like, this could be something that we can actually do. Like we can actually make up ground here, because I think we at this point we've slipped from like first and second to probably like more like 8th. But we knew we had a chance still. So like, yeah, we're now in Vienna. What's awesome about Vienna though is they had like a huge like amusement park right there, so we were able to hit like roller coasters or like bungee jump and talk to other people to help us out on a lot of challenges there. But yeah.
Wait,
Yeah, we got a ton of points that day just from challenges right around that area. There was even a little safety festival going on, so we got points for a festival. But another thing nice about Vienna is there was trains going to Czech. There was trains going to Bratislava. There was trains going to Budapest. So there was a lot of options. Granted, that night we were really struggling with all of those options. We went to the smaller bus stop kind of by accident. But we got a ton of points there, and we still really weren't at the top. And so we came to the conclusion that, most of the teams that started in Budapest had 2 satellite checkpoints right next to them. And the satellite checkpoints, there's only like 7 of them on the entire map, but they're the outskirts. And then all the points in the middle, you get 250 when you go to, if you complete the challenge.
Yeah.
The ones on the outside, you get 500 plus the distance you travel. So everyone in Budapest had Battle in Sarso, Hungary, and Zagreb, Croatia, right next to each other that were 2 satellites. So the teams that were all in the top 5 started in Budapest and got those, and we were like, all right, let's try and do that. So we overnight trekked from Vienna, got our last resort.
We went to Budapest because originally we were trying to, I don't even know where we were trying to go, but it all fell apart. And it was one of those, there was like the final Flixbus of the night that pulled up, and we like look at the front of it and it says like Budapest on it. And we talked to the guy for like 30 minutes and he finally lets us on. But this is where you're talking about. So Budapest is the start city. So we know we're getting 150 points to at least get there, but we have no plan after that. Like there's no checkpoint to wake up to. You don't get points traveling to it. You just get the 150 for the challenge. But we were so stuck in Vienna at that point that we literally took anything. And so we went to Budapest. Yeah.
Wait, that's something. Okay, I'm just having an unlock. I didn't realize. So the distance points, you did kind of explain this earlier, but I didn't understand. Because I don't know if you guys remember, but when you clicked on the finish line, it said your distance will be calculated at the finish line. So they almost made it seem like you didn't get the points until the end. But now that makes sense what you're saying, Jacob, is that there was only two amount of points for checkpoints, which was in the city and then the outskirts plus the distance from your last checkpoint. That's what we for like the first 2 days were trying to figure out why some checkpoints were 3,000 in Poland. And we were just like, it must be because they're the furthest away, which is true. But I didn't realize that. I remember them explaining like satellite checkpoints are more points, but then I was so confused because I was like, why satellites are like 500 and then these ones are like 2,000. This one's like 2,000. And I was like, why? So now, dude, I don't know if I just blanked out during the meeting, but you guys like had such a good grip of the scoring, which now it makes sense. You go to a place, you hit 2 satellite checkpoints. That's like a huge win.
Yeah.
The other question is how do you get the points for going to another starting city if there's not a checkpoint in the actual starting city?
So it was a challenge. So all you had to do was film yourself somewhere like within Budapest saying like, hey, I am here. Like, so we there's like street signs that we were with. We're like, look, we're in Budapest.
Okay.
You just had to, it was like a 150-point challenge. It wasn't like a checkpoint at all.
I see.
So then so we traveled there, but then like the next morning we went to Balaton Sarso, which is a remote checkpoint, but the distance was calculated from Vienna to Balaton Sarso. They didn't even care that we went to Budapest at all, like in the point system. Like there's no, it doesn't matter at all.
I see. And so at this point, what is this? Day 6, day 7?
This is I think we're a day. This is actually at day 6 because there's technically like 8 days. It was like 7.5 days.
I realized that when I was editing my Instagram reels and I did day 7, and I was like, why do I still have another day of footage? But so at this point, I know people asked you this at the after party, but you were clearly in contention for winning, but you're not that close to Berlin. Like other teams are actually closer than you now because they just were going directly to Berlin. You were jumping all around. Was there, I also am not sure, I don't even know if going to Berlin was a requirement for winning. They didn't.
Yeah.
It was a requirement. Okay.
If we didn't check in before 4 o'clock that day, then we when it didn't matter what place we were in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what were you guys worried you might not make it, or?
At the point when we were in Budapest, no. But at the end of this day, at the end of day 6, big time. Like we ran into some trouble.
Yeah. Well, and it was funny thinking about Budapest because we didn't have a plan of how we were going to get out of Budapest, and then total God thing, like met this guy that led us exactly how to get. He loved Red Bull, and it was one of our few trades where he actually like valued the rather than the brand or the experience. He just like wanted Red Bull to drink, and that he loved Red Bull, and he ended up buying us like a bus and a tram to get all the way to Balaton Sarzo. And so that worked out perfect to get to a satellite checkpoint. And then after Balaton Sarzo, you know, they didn't even know that we were going to show up to that checkpoint because we didn't RSVP until 2 a.m. So we're there at like 7 because we were overnight traveling, and we wake up the people in the house. And they're like, oh, we didn't know anyone would be here. So we do that challenge. And then we get really lucky again. And we meet we walk outside to meet a neighbor, and it was this really buff Hungarian dude wearing his Speedo and his tank top with his boys playing outside. And he gave us a ride to a gas station. And from that gas station, I went, and it was like a gas station near the best hitchhiking spot. So that's kind of what we discovered at that point really was instead of just hitchhiking, go to the nearest gas station. You have a little bit more control over what's going on rather than just thumb in the air. But I went into the restroom still in Balaton Sarzo. And by the time I came out, Weston and David already talked to this guy who thankfully was going to Zagreb and gave us a ride there. And so we were on top of the world. Like we had 2 satellite checkpoints in a day. This recovered for other teams that were getting 3 in a day. And we were like so hype. And Weston, if you want to tell them what happened after that, you can.
Yeah. So we realized like that was the first time we hitchhiked, and we realized that like it helped us so much being on like the only like where we got dropped off at the gas station. It was on a highway to where it's like you were only coming from Balaton Sarso or you're only going to Zagreb. So like everyone that stopped there Like that was the only two places they could go, unless they're stopping in
Yeah.
some like village on the way. So that was
Yeah.
huge. But we end up getting to Zagreb where it's like maybe one. So we're still in this boat of like maybe we can hit another checkpoint today. We're like excited. We're like we do the checkpoint super quick. We're like they have food for us. We're like okay, let's go inside eat. We hit first place again here. Like this is where we're like okay, what we're doing is actually paying off. We took a risk, but it worked. And so we go sit inside and we eat our food. We talk to this checkpoint was at a hotel. And we talked to the hotel reservation, trying to figure out like how like buses out of here, how we can get to Graz, Austria, which was the nearest checkpoint because we were so far away that it was kind of hard to get out of Zagreb. And we're like, okay, as long as we can get to the nearest checkpoint, we can get out of here and then like hopefully the next day we can start making our way to Germany, like and then all the way to Berlin. That was the idea. And there was a thing called you probably heard of it. It was a blah blah car,
Yeah.
Ozzy. So they were like, yeah, we can order you a blah blah car, and like we'll get you there. Like that's the best option because it was like a bus ticket was like 30 euros or one blah blah car for all of us was 30 euros. So they printed us out all the instructions, like the map of where to go for the blah blah car, like the
Yeah.
pickup time, everything. It was pretty funny. So we just have like 4 pieces of paper of like our meetup time, which is in like 3 hours. So we're like, dude, this is great. We have time to kill. We can hit challenges. We know how we're getting out of there. We're on a high.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Red Bull calls us at like not even, I guess it was our like representative at HQ, Kevin.
Yeah,
And he
he
was
was
like,
mine
hey,
too.
I know we've been talking about it. You're going to Graz, but they just closed it down due to a family emergency. There's a restaurant and they had like a family emergency. And we were like, dude, like, what? And they're like, yeah, there's a family emergency. It's no longer available. You can't, like, if you go there, you're not getting any points. And we were like, okay, this is like kind of flustering, you know, like we just
Yeah.
hit first, we're on a high, we already know how we're getting to the next spot, and it just kind of gets taken away from us.
Yeah.
Um
Wow.
and so from there we like come to the conclusion it's like okay, we'll still go to Graz. It'll get us out of Zagreb, which is like just not the place to be.
Yeah.
We
It's
go
so
meet
far
up
the
at our blah
furthest
blah
away.
car spot. It's like some elementary school 30 minutes away from where the checkpoint was. And we sit there for like 5 minutes, you know, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. The blah blah car does not show up at all.
Wait.
So now it's
Just so
like 7
I can
p.m.
clarify
Yeah.
for the audience, because they might be wondering what a BlaBlaCar is.
Yeah.
BlaBlaCar, there's actually 2 versions. A BlaBlaCar is also a bus, but I'm assuming what you're talking about right now is in Europe, they have like a shared ride system. So you can basically be like, I'm going on a road trip, and if you pay me X euros, you can join my road trip. So this is what we had tried it too during the trip, but the issue that we ran into is like it's very hard to do a BlaBlaCar without a phone because you're supposed to be like constantly texting the driver.
Yeah.
So this is what you had arranged, to be correct, right? Like a road trip essentially
Yes.
with a
So
stranger.
exactly what you're explaining now. Yes.
Yeah. And so you get there, you can't text the person, so you're just hoping they show up.
Yeah. So we wait about like 35 minutes. Nothing. The people that order us the blah blah car is at the hotel. They're like 30 minutes away. There's no way for us to contact them either.
Yeah.
So we're just like, dude, we're screwed. We're like completely out of luck here. It's starting to, we like eventually, it's like 7 o'clock now. So we're within the 48-hour range of like getting to Berlin on the last day.
Yeah.
We look on the map. We are literally the furthest team away on the map. And we're stuck
Oh,
at like a
wow.
satellite checkpoint with less than 48 hours to go. And this is where we're like, okay, we took a risk. It worked up to now, but like I think we just screwed ourselves. Like we just completely screwed ourselves.
Yeah.
There was one time I looked at one of y'all. I can't remember if it was you or David, and we were kind of just like, I just hope we make it to the finish line. Like, I hope we actually make it to Berlin and get to go to the after party. We were like, maybe there's a chance we don't, because we were so far away. There was like no team barely in Austria. There was a few teams in Czech. There was no teams in Hungary. We just went to 2 checkpoints, and we were the only 2 that went there that day and the day before, I think. No one had went there at all. So we were like kind of stranded at that point. It was 7 p.m. or so. And we ended up resorting to hitchhiking again. But we were in South Croatia. We drove south to get to this blah blah car to meet him. He doesn't show up. We try to get back north, go to Flixbus. Flixbus, we have no success there. And then we were like, all right, we have to hitchhike. That's our only option. And so we made a Graz sign and we went to this one spot. And I'm trying to
McDonald's. We went to
Yeah.
McDonald's.
We went to McDonald's. And I remember we were just kind of like running around trying to scramble to get people to help us out. And I guess there was a soccer game that just went on. And I saw this one guy that looked about our age, buzz cut. His name was Martin. I saw him in the car and I was like, yo. And Weston was right next to me. And we just talked with him. And he's like, yeah, I'll help you all hitchhike. We'll hop in the car. We jump in the car with him and he drives us to
It was the entrance of the Autobahn, so you had to pay like a toll fee. So all the cars were stopping there. Is what it was.
Okay.
Yes.
So the Autobahn's like the freeway in Germany where people can drive like 200 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Bro, were you
Yeah,
sussed out?
it was essentially the same thing in Croatia. I think they called it the Autobahn, but it was like, yeah, they had to pay, so they all had to stop. And so we're like, this is good.
He dropped us off in the middle of the median. He just made a U-turn because he wasn't going to go through it. He dropped us off and he's like, yeah, this is where I used to hitchhike. We get off in the median. We have a sign that says Graz on this like little piece of paper. It was so on the Berlin sign, but it was so small. And we got so lucky here. I mean, we were wearing our gladiator caps, so we at least had some antics. But I think, Weston, you held up the sign for a little bit, and this one car kind of just skirts on the side of the road. Dude gets out. I'm still getting my backpack out of this other guy's car, but the one that pulls on the median and just skirted, he gets out and just goes, come on. And then David sprints across the median. You hear cars full speed honking at David, and I'm like, what's going on? Then I see the car. Weston runs across, and I'm like, oh, my God. I run across. We just load everything into this guy's car. And when I tell you, this guy did not speak any English. I mean, none, no English at all. But he was just as sweet as can be. We spoke through the map. We would point to Graz and Vienna, and he saw the sign that said Graz, and he was like, oh, like kind of describing. He was like, I drive right below Vienna, and so we were like, this is great. And he ended up taking us. We made a split decision in the middle of it to go right south of Vienna. But yeah, that was such a clutch moment.
And so you guys, that was like how you knew you were going to make it to Berlin, or?
Well, potentially. So Graz, they closed the checkpoint. So we knew that wasn't a checkpoint. We weren't getting points for it. And so we made the split decision while he was driving us to go where he pointed on the map, because we couldn't really speak with him. We were speaking through smiles and laughs and the weirdness of how tired we were. But he ends up dropping us off at a train. He was like, choo-choo. He dropped us off at a train station right south of Vienna. And from that point, we knew, okay, we remembered that in Vienna, you could go to Bratislava, you could go to Brno or Prague in Czech Republic. And we remember that. So we said, might as well just drop us off at this random train station at like 1 a.m. And so he ended up doing that for us. And we made it back to Vienna, where we were that morning before. And we just tried to find ways to get out of Vienna, because we'd already went to that checkpoint. You can't get two checkpoints twice, you know?
I'm going to add Kate, and she'll go through the last day with us.
Do it.
What is up, Kate?
Hey, guys. How are you?
They're telling us.
I'm good. I'm so excited to see you guys.
Yeah. They're deep in telling me exactly how they won. I've been questioning every bit of detail. Sorry I added you so late. I didn't realize that I told you and Jared 6:30. I just got caught up with trying to get so many people in and out of here.
No, you're so good. I've been watching the whole time. I've been loving it.
Oh, you've been watching? Oh, thank you so much.
Anytime.
That means a lot. Well, they're almost done. They're just finishing up their last day because they were so far away from getting to Berlin. They had enough points where they knew they were in contention for winning. But you guys, 1 a.m., you're back in Vienna, right? Is this the day of the finish line or the day before?
Day before. So this is our day 7, the one that we all thought was kind of the end at the start.
Yeah, and then there's an extra day. And so just continue from there. And Kate, if you want to ask any questions about winning or anything, feel free to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I want to hear the end of this. I want to hear about your adventure to the end.
All right. Well,
Your screen just went black.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah. So I guess this is the part where I have I have a question about this part, Jacob, because I forget how we. So eventually we get to. This is where you're talking about Aussie, like lack of sleep. It is like catching up to us, like major catching up to us. We probably averaged 1 to 2 hours of sleep the past like 2 nights. And so now we're in Vienna. And we get there probably 1 a.m. We figure out that, like, okay, there's a bus to Bratislava that leaves in the morning. So let's try and find a place to sleep, like anything that would work. There's no, our phone is, I think our phone died at this point, and there's no charging points in the train station. So we eventually find like the nearest hostel. We ask these like 16-year-olds, they walk us to a hostel. And this is where we sleep in the lobby for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tried to pitch. This is where I'm a little confused, Jacob, because we ended up getting the bus tickets. I think David did.
So yeah,
When did he get them though? Because I remember I tried to pitch the people that were in. There was 2 guys drinking in the hostel at like 2 a.m. in the morning, and I tried to stay up to talk to them for a while to pitch them to buy us. They were only $5 or €5 bus tickets, and I end up falling asleep standing up talking to them. And then they like wake me up and they're like, "Hey man, are you okay?" And I was like, "I can't pitch this." And so I end up going to bed. But yeah, that's where I don't know when we got the tickets, but I knew we got them.
Yeah. So more context on the way there, me and Weston, we were talking about this yesterday. We had a conversation with each other, but Weston would ask a question, but I would be asleep while he asked it. Then I'd wake up and I'd answer it, but then he would fall asleep by the time I answered it. And he'd go, wait, what'd you say? And I was like, wait, I forgot what you asked. And it was just we were so tired. But Weston had found that there were $5 tickets to get to Bratislava at like a 5 a.m. bus or a 4 a.m. bus. And so we were like, oh, we still have like 24 cans of Red Bull. So we can probably get that. It's worth more than that in money. And so we bartered for it, or we tried, and David just kind of skated away from us while we were waiting for the bus to show up right around 4:35-ish.
The
David
taxi driver. Oh, dude, yeah.
Yes, it was a taxi driver that we had saw the night before we slept for 2 hours, and we traded him a ton of Red Bull. He bought us the tickets, and then we got in the bus and went to Bratislava. And so it's crazy how much detail we're even leaving out. Like there's so much that happened in that 7th day. Like it's crazy how much happened in the 7th day and how we went from like, a few hours before not being sure how we were going to get out of Zagreb, Croatia, to all of a sudden we're in Bratislava. And then we knock out a challenge that we had to run 3 miles back and forth off of 1 to 2 hours of sleep for the last 3 nights. We ran to the border when we got there, because we got there at like 6 a.m. Couldn't do anything else. We said, all right, might as well run to 3 borders. And that was 150 points. So we ran to the border of Slovenia, Hungary, and
Slovakia, Hungary, and Austria. Yeah, so it was a 6-mile like round trip run off of like 1 to 2 hours of sleep.
Did you guys, you had skateboards at the start. Did you drop them, or what happened with those?
Jacob lost his.
Yeah. The sleep made me, my weakness is forgetfulness. I forgot everything, man. I lost so much on this trip. But I
me too. So you get to Bratislava. Is that where you sleep the final night, or?
No, not at all. We hit Bratislava. So we can kind of. There's so much that happened. Bratislava happened. We almost get kicked out of the checkpoint because it was like a Spindletop restaurant 200 meters up that you could like. You get harnessed in and you walk around it, do challenges. We were trying to tell them that we're like almost in first. We want to do this fast, and they're like, "Okay, you can." Except we didn't understand the full extent of how fast we could do it. And so they
Oh.
harnessed me in, and I sprint around the whole building. And the moment I
Oh,
come back to like the like end of it, they're like yelling at me so loud, like telling us our team is canceled, like we're not getting these points. They might like kick us out of the competition, like in general. And we're like, what did we just like? We just messed up so bad because there was just a miscommunication. Like it was
Yeah.
complete miscommunication between us and them.
Weston
And so then-
sprinted around the skyscraper.
Yeah.
And then how do you like get out of not getting in trouble? And did you get those points? You really needed them.
Well, before we did it, they told us that 2 people needed to complete this challenge. And so Weston, they obviously were not going to let him do it again because he sprinted around. And the guy that owned the place was like, I've been here 16 effing years and I've never seen this my whole time here. So me and David ended up completing that, and we were okay. We were in second at the time, and one of the girls that was with us said they're in second, so they lose the competition if we don't get this. And so they ended up not disqualifying all of us, but so we still got to complete it.
And the guy ended up cooling down, and he started joking with me a lot, calling me an idiot. But I think in the moment it was what I did was dumb, and they knew it was, and so they were trying to definitely prove a point to us to just be smart.
Yeah.
Y'all hugged it out.
So continue.
So now it's like, how do we get to Berlin while also getting as many points as we can when we're like, there's 36 hours left of the competition. So there's a city called, is it Bjorn or?
Brno.
Brno, yeah. And then there's Prague. They're both in Czech Republic. And we're like, we think we can hit one of them. Like, it would be hard to hit 2, but we know we can hit 1. And this would get us on the way to Berlin. But essentially, what happens is we stay at a gas station for like an hour and a half. This is the first time we have like really bad luck with hitchhiking. We try for an hour and a half. We can't get out. Our time's ticking away. So we're like, okay, dude, there's no way we can hit 2 checkpoints now. We literally just burned an hour and a half trying to get anywhere. And we finally had somebody who was like, I'll drive you to another gas station that's on a better highway. Like that people will actually be going into Czech Republic because we're in a whole nother country right now.
Yeah.
So he clutched up big time, took us there. And the moment we were there, like within 5 minutes, Jacob found a car that'll take us to Prague. I found a car that'll take us to Prague. And David found a car that'll take us to Prague. Except Jacob, the guy he found was the GOAT. We explained to him the whole competition. And he was like, I'll stop y'all off at the first checkpoint because it's on my way home. And then I'll take y'all to Prague too as well. And so he essentially drives us to Brno. We get there. You can tell this, Jacob. You were probably more into this than I was at this point.
Oh, I was so hyped because his name was Yaqub. His name was Jacob, but in Arabic. So he drove us all the way to Brno, waited outside, and the thing was, we knew when we got to Brno, it was like 2:15, probably, or it was like 2, and it took us about 2.5 hours to get to Prague from that point. So we were like, we need to go quick. We called the checkpoint ahead of time. I was like, hey, we're trying to get in and out. And they're like, yeah, we're good. No one's here. Well, we show up. And at this checkpoint, the challenge is to cut up cabbage. And it's the way, I guess, it's the way they did it in Brno and in the Czech historically.
Yeah.
But you'll cut up cabbage with your hands. And then you get a kid with the clean feet to step on it and make like cabbage juice or sauerkraut or whatever it is. So you had to step on cabbage in a little box with us 3 together. But we show up and another team showed up right before us. And we were like, what are the odds of this? And that team was just, taking their time. And we were trying to be nice. And so we end up helping them. We cut up a bunch of their cabbage and helping them do theirs as quick as we can. But we still lost so much time. Meanwhile, Yaqub is just waiting in his car for us. And we're like, crap, like, we hope he doesn't leave. We want to do this quick. And so it was almost like a video. Weston made this analogy. They finally finish, and we throw our cabbage in this container, and we're all super tight in this container, just stepping on cabbage over and over and over, moving so fast. And it's almost like watching those guys who build stuff in fast motion, we felt like that. And we made the juice. You had to make a quart of cabbage juice, and we made it like quicker than any other team. We book it. They give us an extra sandwich to give to Yaqub, so he was happy that he had that. And then he drives us to Prague, and we literally made it to Prague just in time. He asked us how long it took to get there. We were like, yeah, you need to just speed a little bit. And he went fast. We pulled up, and there was some traffic like 15 minutes out from when it closed. And we got out of the car, and we're like, thank you, Yagub. Here's all of our Red Bull. And we sprinted to the checkpoint and got there like right before it closed.
Wow.
And so that was like a blessing, having him and getting to Prague. 3 checkpoints in a day, when the morning of, we didn't know anything of what was going to happen.
And so, do you sleep in Prague, or what happened?
We like hit the checkpoint. It was awesome. We decide that like our best bet is we can get buses out of there for very cheap. But we didn't want to go straight to Berlin because we thought we can hit another checkpoint in the morning. So we went to Leipzig, Germany was our bus of choice, but it left in the morning. So we spent about 30 minutes and we set up the buses for the rest of our trip. There was like a bunch of people around, and they saw all the Red Bull tents, so everyone was very invested. And so we ended up getting 3 bus tickets to Leipzig, Germany, and then 3 more from there to Berlin, like already pre-arranged. And then took all the screenshots of them. So like our transportation for the rest of the trip finalized. Don't have to worry about it at all.
That's what we did too.
Yeah, and so now we're like, okay, we need to hit challenges. There's some that we're lacking. This place is lively as all like can be because they just won the World Cup, and like we think we can do some stuff. So it's like, I think firefighter was the one we wanted to do. We wanted to do. There's a couple of them, Jacob. We did a museums museum at night, and then there was like one other one. But the biggest one we wanted to do, huh?
We wanted to watch a sports game, and we're unsuccessful there too.
Oh, dude, that was annoying. Sports game couldn't watch. But the biggest accomplishment that we got to do, or wanted to do, was we got to spend a night at a castle. Like, we can get 2 hours of sleep here, spend a night at a castle. It's rolling around like 12 o'clock at night, and we were like talking to all these people. We've been riding the trams around, and I'm getting a little nervous because like sometimes like trams close down. I'm like, so I'm asking everybody. I'm like, hey, does the tram close down after 12? Everyone's like, no. Does the tram close down after 12? No. There's if it does, then they have another alternative route, like a bus system. Like, you'll be fine. So we're like, okay, let's. And then everyone was really weird about giving us directions to castles. And so when we finally somebody gave us a direction to the castle, we're going. We hop on the train. It's like 11:55. We make it to the castle. We didn't realize this is like the proper castle of Czech Republic in Prague. Like, it is like where, I don't know if they have a king or queen or duke, but it's like where they are staying, and there's like full on security around the entire building. It was like, okay, wait, we chose the wrong castle, but we still got to try. So we like hold up. I like Google Translate. We're Google Translating like, hey, we're part of a Red Bull challenge. He's like kind of laughing. And he's like, what do you want? And we're like, we need to sleep in the castle, or at least like in front of it, just something. And he's like, I can't let y'all in. There's like cameras everywhere. Y'all would get arrested. And he's like pointing around. There's like literally like everywhere you could look, there was like cameras. And there's like multiple guards everywhere. And we're like, dude, we're idiots. Like we could have gone to any other place, and we went like to like the one place we would have no luck. But now it's like 12:10. And our bus out of here is at 2 o'clock in the morning, and our bus station is a 50-minute tram ride away. And so we're like, okay, we need to start trying to make our way to our bus so we can get to Germany. And we're sitting at the tram station, and I'm getting a little antsy. David and Jacob getting tired, but I'm like, dude, this is like, I don't think it's coming. I'm like, we're sitting there like, and we sit there for probably like 20 minutes. And at that point, I'm like, dude, it is not coming. I go back to the guard and I translate to him. And he pulls up on Google Maps how to get to the bus station. And it's like arrival 5 a.m. Next tram leaves at 4:55. Like, so essentially the trams closed down for the night. Like, everyone told us they wouldn't. And and now it was 7 miles away. So it would have been about like an hour run to the bus stop, and we would have gotten there with about maybe 5 minutes to spare. So we just start booking it. Like we start running as fast as we can. And the first car Jacob sees, Jacob like literally like runs out in front of it and like almost gets hit. And this guy pulls over and he's like, "What do y'all want?" And then we explain him. We give him the whole case of Red Bull, and he takes us to the bus stop. But
Wow.
oh my gosh, like that was like one of those. It was like we've done everything right, and the reason we're gonna lose is because we finally got directions to a castle. Except it's like the most like prestigious castle you could try and sleep in,
Wow.
and it almost missed our bus. Yeah.
And so then you hit that bus and you knew you were good from there because you had the tickets to Berlin.
We thought, kind of. So we get to Leipzig, Germany, but the problem is it's another freaking soccer challenge, and we suck. Like we almost lost the FIFA thing, and
we almost lost that soccer challenge too because Americans are just not good. All right,
Dude.
most Americans.
So we get there 2 hours early, and we set up the whole thing ourselves and practice for 2 hours.
Literally.
No way.
Yeah. They had
Practice for,
three
like-
things you had to do. One was like a game where you get in a little octagon and you have to like kick different green lights that turn green or red.
Yeah.
And so we were like, David has to do that. And then Weston's challenge, he'd played hacky sack and he knows how to juggle. So he had to juggle 5 times.
Yeah, so I was just trying to get confident there. And then Jacob had the toughest one.
Well, the thing about all this, there was a lot of pressure because we all had one chance. So David had one chance to do his challenge. Weston had one chance. I mean, juggling 5 in a row, you can easily mess up or slip. And then, mine was like kicking a soccer ball in his little hole. And it was funny because I think I missed like 70 in a row when we first got there. But we were each practicing for like 2 hours straight. And it's so funny looking back at this because at this moment, we're like, if we don't get this 250, we lose the competition. And everything's built up to this. But it's built up to, and there's teams that start showing up by 9 a.m. when the checkpoint opens. And Weston just completed his challenge. We're good. David completed his. We're good. And we have all these teams watching us because they're aware of the gladiators by our hats. And there's like a crowd behind me. And it's so funny because I'm kicking into this little inflatable goal. But it's like, this is it. Everyone's watching. Pressure is on. And we ended up, 7th try. We got it. And it's just, we kick into this inflatable goal. And everyone's jumping. We're like, Weston, David, we made the goal.
Oh my gosh, see, that's wild. There was a lot of pressure on you guys, like mad pressure.
Yeah.
Dude, and you were super smart to get the bus because every team was in Leipzig. We heard people were really struggling to get out of Leipzig, but we had gotten the like German train pass, so we were chilling. But there were so many teams there. So. Then what? Then you go to the Berlin train station, or not the Berlin, Leipzig train station, and you had the train and you were good?
We had a bus, actually. So that was the bus was okay, except the bus got us to the Berlin airport, which is another 50-minute tram ride up to actually the checkpoint. So we're like starting to think, okay, like they closed that checkpoint down at 2, so our time's getting a little tight on everything of what we want to do. They released the like daily challenge, which isn't too close to the checkpoint at all. And so we're like, how do we do this? And we meet like 1 guy and 2 girls on our bus over there who like let us plan this like final 2 or 3 hours that we had available. As well as there's another Texas A&M team that was on the competition. And we asked them, we're like, hey, is there any place that we can do cycling? Is there any place that we can find a tandem bike? And they set us up with like 2 shops that like we need to go to. So we're like sitting in this bus. It's like an hour and a half long bus, like finalizing our entire plan of how we're going to route this out this last like 3 hours that we had. And it's starting to get like really close on time. So the guy who we were with, Julian, he's like, I'll help y'all out. We're like, okay, like, can you just show us where the tram is? We didn't realize the bus dropped us off in like the middle of nowhere of the airport. It's like in the like this random parking lot far away. And Julian's like, we kind of have like a little ways to go. And I was like, hey, we're kind of on a time rush. He's like, can y'all run? And we're like, yeah. And so he like leads the pack of all of us and runs us to the tram station,
With
like
his
full on
suitcase.
sprint through the airport. Like he was a part of the competition too, and got us
What?
on the next tram, which actually helped because we ended up going to the like daily challenge first, and then we finally made it to the two like right before 2 o'clock to check into the checkpoint, and we had maybe like 10 minutes to spare. So like him running and like getting us to where we needed like was so clutch.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wow. And so then you guys hit that checkpoint.
Yeah, we hit
You
that
get to the
checkpoint.
finish
We
line.
have 2 hours left. So we try the tandem bike spot. First one was a failure. Second one we do. The guy was so awesome. He had a bike for us. We took our video, did everything. And then we kind of like slow walked it to the place to hopefully do the cycling challenge, which is like a gym. You had to do a cycling class.
Yeah.
And there's two girls in there that were working. We explained them the challenge, and they're like, "Yeah, this is awesome." And they walk us into like a full-on cycling studio. Like it's not just like two bikes in the back of a gym. It's like a
Yeah.
full-on cycling studio. They're like, "Do y'all want the music?" We're like, "Yeah." They like turn off the lights, turn on all the LEDs, and it was just like
Wow.
bumping music for us.
They were
And they like
yelling
went
at
us
us.
through like a 10 minute, like a 5 minute course, and it
They're
was
like,
so
come
funny.
on!
Yeah, they're literally like hyping us up. They're like, you got it. And so that was actually a really funny video that we filmed on the part of the challenge.
Yeah, because we were telling them to go hard on us, and they went hard on us. They were like, "Come on, faster,
Yeah.
faster!" But we
That's
clutched out
funny.
there because the other Texas team, like, it was really helpful to us to have made relationships with other teams, specifically Chantel, Connor, and Mia in the Transportation Titans, because they told us where the cargo bike was. They had like messaged us through the event app where that was and where we could go do Spin City.
Mm,
And if we hadn't done both of those, we wouldn't have won the competition. So
wow.
they did really end up helping us. And
Wow. So there's a bunch of people waiting. So I'm going to add them all. We can kind of talk about you all winning at the finish line since everyone's America here. Yeah, we got hella people in here.
Oh my
Thank
god.
you, Weston and Jacob, for going through that like whole story. And I still want you guys to talk about like actually winning at the finish line. I just feel bad because literally everyone's waiting. So Natasha, Rhea, Kimmy, Kate, you've been here for a little bit, but you have not been talking, even so kindly listening. We're gonna.
I was kind of so enamored by all of your stories. It was truly so fun to watch you guys as you were going. But I mean, it's one thing to watch just from the videos that you were recording and submitting, but just to hear you guys talk about the actual experience is just so amazing. So I'm just literally sitting here like as a fan, just like listening.
Wow. Thank you so much. Kate was the one who picked all our videos, all the Team America. So we're all like kind of owe her one.
Well, it wasn't.
big
It was
one.
not just me. There was a whole team. You guys like truly like blew us out of the water. I mean, I can't speak on behalf of the company, but just me personally, you guys brought so much personality and excitement to the table, and it was just so amazing to watch you guys compete. And truly, like, I can't thank you enough for all of the energy, passion, and excitement that you brought.
Thank you, Kate. I'm going to introduce the Red Bulls Angels. So these girls were, I told this story at the very beginning of the podcast, but no one in here was on. When we first got to Barcelona, there wasn't a manager in Barcelona. So I'm pretty sure all the other starting cities, you stayed in a manager hotel. But in Barcelona, they put us in like a random hostel. It was called Generator, which is just kind of a funny name. And they gave us our room number, and we had the room key. And we went to our room number, and we didn't try the room key because we heard these girls like screaming in the room, and we're like, this is a hotel because we thought it was a manager hotel. We're like, we clearly this isn't our room. And so we went to every other like room on the floor and tried to use our key card. Because we thought me and Lucas were ahead of Seraphine, and we were like, we're just being dumb. Like, we heard the wrong number. Seraphine is going to come up with the right number, and we'll come here. But the only room we didn't try was our actual room number because we heard these girls screaming. But it turns out Seraphina came up and she was like, no, this is our room. And we went in there, and we were roommates with the Red Bulls Angels, and they were just trolling us, screaming every time we tried to get in the room. And then you guys were just super funny. And we spent the first night with you guys, and I was so curious how you guys would barter, because you're all girl team and you're on the younger side. Like, I was like, are these guys going to make it to Berlin? And you did. So can you kind of touch on what that was like?
Okay, well, first of all, thanks for having us. That story is like really funny. Honestly, like we didn't think there were 6 beds, but we were like, it didn't really occur to us that people would be rooming with us. Like we just kind of thought like, oh, well, they would probably organize and give each team like their own room. So like we weren't trying to scare you off, but like, you know, that was like a funny introduction. But it was a little hard bartering, honestly. A lot of people that we met along the way ended up telling us the first thing that they thought of us was like we were really young. And that could kind of go both ways. Like sometimes that would really push people to help us because like, oh my God, like you're so young. Like there's like, this is kind of like scary for you. And then on the other exact like extreme opposite of the side, they're like, oh, they're so young, I'm not going to go near them. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
There were like stories we heard. A lot of people thought we were like 15 or 16 years old, so they were like scared. Like a lot of the help that we got was just like I remember one night we missed one of our connecting trains. This was when we were trying to get to Marseille, and we missed one of our connecting trains because someone on our train got arrested, so it got delayed like 10 minutes or something. And then we get to the train station, and the conductor's like, how old are you guys? Are you guys like 15 or 16 years old? And we're like, no, we're actually like 18 and 19. And he's like, oh, okay, well, there are no more trains. I can get you guys a hotel room for the night, and I can get you guys dinner. So we were able to stay at like a really nice hotel. We got a really nice dinner just because like the guy thought we were like 16 years old.
Yeah. Dang. Did you have any really scary moments? Like, did you guys sleep outside?
Oh my gosh. Yes. We told this story to like so many people already, but like you said, like being an all-girl team, we already knew like, oh, this is gonna be a little more difficult. You know, we have to be like a little more aware. But like when you're really in that situation, you really have to think on your feet. You're like, oh my gosh, like safety is like everything. Like I think the worst experience was definitely in Nice, France. Basically. So we just experienced a high. We were in Monaco. We were exploring. We actually were inspired by your guys' team to go to Monaco and see the Grand Prix.
I think we were there at the same time.
Yeah, we were like, look where they are. Like, we should do that too. And so we go. We have a great time. And I remember you mentioned like how was it bartering? And honestly, like we just have to keep telling each other like we just need to like talk to every single person because our first strategy is kind of guess whether or not this person would help us or not. But it's like in a situation like this, you just kind of have to ask anyone who passes by. So that's that's kind of what our strategy was. And then we always just end up finding someone because you ask so many people, someone's like bound to help you. You know what I mean? But we were in Monaco and we were in the train station and we were probably trying to barter for like, honestly, like an hour and a half. And then this big group of like drunk guys come up and we're like, hey, could you get us just one ticket from Monaco to Geneva? Because we checked the machine and it said, okay, Monaco to Geneva, that's like 100 euros. So we're like, okay, that's gonna be really hard, but like we can probably find someone. People at Monaco, they got some money. So we're like, okay, we're like, hey, could you please just get us like, we were trying to use like that young thing. We're like, can you please get us like one ticket to Geneva?
Yeah.
First, they were just passing it on to each other. They're intoxicated. They would be like, this man right here, he has money. You should have. Yeah. And so then we'd be like, please give us one ticket to Geneva. And he'd be like, no, this guy over here, he has money. But they're all rocking like Louis Vuitton, like these sunglasses. Anybody at this point. And a big part of it was Niyathi. She's not here like right now, but a big part was like her. She like really she really did a lot of the asking. Like, she wasn't scared. So like we like dedicate so much of it to Niyathi, but she me and her and Ria, we were just like we just kept kind of pushing them because even though they were kind of
We were
trying to
overstimulating
say
them
like,
low
no.
key.
Yeah, like we were kind of like trying to slowly be like, no, like they were trying to slowly be like, no, but then we were like, come on, like, you know, like they're so close. And then these two more men walk in and they're well, this group of people, they're Polish, and then some two Frenchmen come over. And then they just and we asked them, or I think Ria, I think you asked them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you asked them first. And so then they were like, and then Ria's like, what if we can find someone to kind of pool in the money with you so that way you don't have to pay the whole 100? Like if everyone kind of splits up the money, then people are more willing to kind of like, you know, dish it out their wallet. And so then we kind of bring the two groups together and they're pushing it off each other. Like, how about you pay? No. Like you pay. You look like you have money. But after just pushing them and honestly pestering them like beyond their like comfort zone for like a solid like 10 minutes, they're all like, all right, everyone pull out 50. And so they all pull out money, pull in for 2 tickets straight to Geneva, and we're freaking out. We're like, oh my gosh, like that's so much like more than we asked for. Thank you. And then the like one of the Polish guys are like, okay, how many more tickets do you need? And we're like, 1 more. And he goes, okay, I guess we'll pay for 1 more. So these group of guys end up pooling in 300 euros to get us 3 tickets straight from Monaco to Geneva. But what ended up happening, and we were celebrating so much. We posted this all over our account. Like I remember Nia things like shaking with the phone. She's like, "Oh my gosh, we literally just like we're leaving France," but we did not leave France because what ended up happening was that it wasn't a real route.
So apparently that train system was only for like routes inside of France. So even though the machine gave us a ticket that goes to Geneva, Switzerland, it's not a valid route. Like no trains actually took you to Geneva. You have to take like a completely different train company. So pretty much these people just paid 300 euros for invalid tickets, even though the machine gave it to us.
And it was the French guys who got it for us too, so they could read the machine. And they picked it. It was like, okay, starting place, ending place. Okay, Monaco, Geneva. And then he's like, let me help you. We go to the conductor, and the conductor is like, he looks at it. He's literally looking at it like this. He's literally looking at it. He's like, I don't know what this is. You're going to have to get on another train. And then we're like, but we chose direct route. And he was like, I don't know. But all I know is that this ticket is like, this is not like a thing. Like, this is not something that you can do. So my best bet is like to go to Nice. So we're like, okay. And then we end up meeting these guys from Canada, and we end up kind of befriending them. And they're like, oh, and one of them spoke French. And so he was like, okay, like we'll help you out. Like we're also going to Nice. So we all go to Nice together. And it's like, and also it was kind of funny too, because turns out they, them and Niyathi had a mutual, which is so crazy. Like you find a mutual with someone that you just randomly meet. It turns out like someone that he knew went to high school and played soccer with Niyathi, which kind of, I guess, inclined us to kind of get a little closer. So we go to Nice. It's like 11 p.m. And then we're like, okay, where do we go from here? But nobody knows. Like nobody in like the French train stations really know how the French trains work. And so we were kind of just asking around. We ask information, and he goes, I don't know. Like, why am I supposed to know that? And we're like, because you work in the information booth. And he's like, that's not my problem. And he leaves. I think he left for the night. Like he just didn't come back. And then we're asking the police officers, and we're like, okay, like, where do we go from here? And then they're like, okay, well, your best bet is to go to Italy to Ventimiglia at the 5:40 train. And then from there, you could probably jump on a train to get to Geneva. So we're like, okay, the police told us that. That's fine. But then, so we kind of like set all our stuff down in the waiting area. And then Niyathi's like, okay, I'm going to go like ask for water. So she goes to the police officers, and they tell her, oh, the station, by the way, closes at 1. And so we were like, okay, so where do we go for like 4 hours? And then we ended up, so we're like, okay, well, could you give us like a place to stay? Like we honestly, like, this is completely unplanned for us. We have no idea where we're going. We're just 3 girls. We're only 18. Like where can we go? Where can we stay? And so the police officers were like, okay, we can probably bring you to the police station. But the police station is just like an entryway because all other doors are like shut. So we were in this like 2x6 like block area, and we had to sleep there for the night. But it was just like that that was our scariest experience. But like, Rhea, do you remember like?
Yeah, it was
happened?
definitely crazy because the police officers were telling us, yeah, there's a lot of knife violence here. Like this is just not really a safe train station to be at like past 1:30. So like we're sitting there and like we take all of our passports and everything out of our bags, like into our belt bags, and we're like clutching on for dear life. And we're like, okay, if anything happens, we book it straight for the hotel across the street. We leave all of our stuff here. So we have like our escape routes planned out and everything. And we're like, okay, we're only gonna nap. We have to take like shifts of like as to who's going to sleep when. Someone, like at least two people have to be awake like watching. And there was one point in the night where someone like ranked below those police officers, just like a general security guy, he tried to kick us out. He was like, no, you can't stay here, but look, the streets are so safe, like go sleep out there. So we're freaking out. We're like, no, we can't do that. Like your
He's
boss
like cutting us off and stuff. Like
your boss said we could sleep here. And then eventually, like, those police officers come back and they're like, oh, why are you guys leaving? So we explained the situation. And then they went and yelled at him. And then he came back and he's like, are we good? Like, you guys can stay here.
it was so awkward because like we knew like we weren't wanted there. Like literally he walks in and he literally like there's so much like sass with it. He literally throws his arms, he goes, what are you doing here? And we're like, we were told we could sleep here. And he goes, no, get out. And we're like, but like they're like right over there. Like we're not lying. Like the police officers are right around the corner. They're right in the front of the train station. And he goes, I don't care. I don't believe you. There's no way they would tell that to you because this is not a sleeping quarters. This is where police need to work. So you need to leave. And we were honestly like, I think that was like the most like fear we felt. Like it was like we were like begging, honestly. We were like, please, like we tried to kind of shift attitude and be like, okay, if we can't stay here, could you please help us instead? Could you be the one that helps us find somewhere to stay? And he's like, no. And then we're like, okay, well then now what? Like, okay, so what are we supposed to do now? And there's another guy behind him. I don't know if he was a police officer, but he had to get in through one of the doors, and he was so annoyed too. He just rolled his suitcase all over our stuff, just right over our stuff into the door, and we're just like, fantastic. And then he literally was like, he was motioning to the streets as there's like construction pits and like people out in the streets, and he's just like, like just like, it's safe, and he was like actually like with the theatrics and everything, and we were just so upset because we're like, how could someone just like have like no empathy? Like we're begging you like just to give us a place to stay for 4 hours, and he like couldn't even do that. And then like what Rhea said, like right as we were packing up, like right when like my sleeping bag was the only one that wasn't rolled yet, and they're like, where are you going? And we're like, we got kicked out. And when that security guard came back, it was just such an uneasy feeling because you could tell like he just didn't want us there. He was like, are we good? And we're just like, yeah, totally. But
honestly, we thought that experience was the lowest, but it got worse the next morning. So then the next morning we catch the train to try to go to Ventimiglia in Italy. So our train actually breaks. Like I think it was like 2 stations after Monaco. So we get down and we're like, shit, like what do we do now? But then we took the train back to Monaco and we're like, okay, that's a pretty big train station. We can find another train to get on from there. So we go back to Monaco. Of course, there was like nothing else. So then we're like, okay, there's actually a train coming in the next 30 minutes to Ventimiglia. So then we go back to Ventimiglia and then we talk to the Italian like police or like whoever's working there. And we're like, hey, like how do we get to Geneva, Switzerland? And they're like, oh, nothing here goes to Geneva. This goes to like some other city. And they're like, the best bet for you right now is to either go back to somewhere like Nice or Marseille or go all the way to Milan and then find a way to Geneva. So we're like, okay. So
they even said like,
yeah,
they were even saying like, whoever gave you these tickets must have been confused. And we're like, what do you mean by confused? And they were like, are you sure this isn't going to Genova? And then we're like, no, it says Genève on it, which is Geneva. And they're like, okay, because Genova is in France. But isn't Genova in Italy? Like, and so we're just like, okay, well, everyone's kind of like confused right now. Like, what are we doing? And then we're like, okay, well, either way, no matter where Genova is, that's not where we're going.
Yeah, so we hop all the way back on a train, go all the way back to Nice again. Like if you looked at our little map, like on the app, it was literally just like a little like back and forth line. But we go all the way back to Nice. And then after we get back to Nice, we're like, okay, there's a train to Lyon. Let's just get on that. Like we don't really we have nowhere else to be right now. So we're running to get onto this train to Lyon because it leaves in like 5 minutes. And this conductor stops us to look at our tickets. She looks at our ticket and she's like, oh, this is not right at all. Like this looks so wrong.
She literally had a horrified face. She went like this.
Yeah. So it takes us to like this ticketing counter. And then this is the lowest. Like, this is actually like the worst part. So the lady looks at our tickets and she's like, this is not a valid train ticket. There are no trains that go like directly to Geneva, Switzerland from this company. So then she starts pulling up all these train routes to Geneva, and they're all like 1,000 euros per person. And we're like, hello, like, we don't have that. So then she's like, I can issue you guys a refund, but you guys need a credit card because that's what it was bought on. And there were actually like train tickets to Lyon, which were 126 euros, like for the three of like for three people, like not each, but like together. So we're like, this is literally cheaper than the tickets that we have right now. Can't you just give us these free tickets? This is like the same company, whatever. And she's like, no, we'd actually be losing money. So at this point, like, we're yelling at her. We're like, well, yeah, we were really frustrated,
I
and
was
she was
yelling
yelling at us. So we were yelling. We're like, how could your machine give us a route that's like completely invalid? We just wasted like 300 euros, and this was like strangers' money. Like, people offered this to us like out of the kindness of their hearts, and you're saying you can't even help us out with like 100 euros? Like, we already paid your company, and it just turned into this big mess. And then
They were yelling at us back.
yeah, they were
They yelled
very
at us.
they were very rude. And at this point, we're like, oh my god, we hate France. We want to get out of France. We hate this country.
Yeah, it was
South France is
so
horrible.
bad. Like, all three of us went nonverbal for like
Same.
5 hours because we just were so upset about what happened. Because we were like, okay, score, like, we're gonna get saved, we're gonna get help, like what Ria said. And then we go there, and then everyone, I don't know, like, we were just so confused because what about our ticket is making every single person look at it in disgust? Like, every single person made a loud face. They were like, why are you looking at our tickets like that? And then it was horrible because, like what Ria said, 1,000, like, it was like, I remember seeing the number, it was like 1,322 or something. I remember that because I was so appalled. I was like, why is it 1,300 euros to go to a train? Like, it's France is not even that big. Like, 1,300 euros to just go from like here to here. Like, are you serious? And so then I was the main complainer because I was like really upset, and Ria was like trying to like kind of still get to compromise with the lady. Yeah. But I was so angry. Like, I don't think I've never felt. Yeah.
1 second, guys. Kate actually has to log off soon, so let's all say goodbye to Kate, and then we can keep storytelling.
No,
Kate, is there anything else you want to say before you leave?
I mean, I really I'm so sorry I have to leave, but I just want to say, like, again, thank you all for everything. I really truly hope that you guys had the adventure of a lifetime and hold these memories with you forever. You know, it means it was just so wonderful to watch you guys. And if you ever need anything, you know where to find me.
Thank you so much, Kate, for picking us and getting us all involved. It truly was the adventure of a lifetime.
Oh, you guys are the best. Oh, I'm going to cry. I need to leave before I start crying. Okay. All right. Bye, guys.
All right, Kate. Wait, there was a funny train ticket story I want to tell you. We were at a train or train station in France, and we had to get 180 euros worth of train tickets. And so one of you guys mentioned, like, at first you were kind of looking at the people like, oh, is this the type of person who would buy us train tickets? And Serafina, the girl on our team, walked up to like a group of like literal 12-year-olds. And I was like, there's like, why are you going up to them? There's a 0% chance these 12-year-olds are going to get us train tickets. And so she like goes up to them, and me and Lucas are asking every French person we can find. And like 20 minutes later, she comes back from the 12-year-olds, and she has 3 train tickets, 180 euros. And she brings them, and we're all freaking out. I was like, dude, I was so wrong. Like, 12-year-olds are the move. And she's like showing us the tickets, and it says whatever city we're at to all the way to Monaco. It was like a 3-hour train, 180 euros, and it says $0. And he's like, Serafina's like, I don't know, maybe like they ran their mom's credit card, like their mom works at the station. And we're like freaking out. I'm like, Serafina, like, I was so wrong. Like, those kids were the move. And we're like all freaking out. And like 20 minutes of just super hype. And we only had like an hour at this point to get the train tickets. 20 minutes of freaking out. And we realized like 20 minutes into having the tickets that what the kids did is they basically went up to the train and put that we were all infants. So infants ride the train for free. And so the tickets, we can't read it because it's in French, but it basically says like you can only ride, like I'm bringing my baby on board. It said like 3 tickets for little babies. And we were like making it rain Red Bull on these 12-year-olds. We're like, bro, have all our Red Bull, have all our Red Bull. And they were like just taking it, laughing at us. And then, but the karma came around because like 20 minutes later, they got walked out of the train station by police officers. I don't know what they did, but and we were just screwed. And then, but we somehow ended up getting the tickets in the next hour. But that was like one of the super funny train moments. Something I do
did your infant tickets end up working, or did you get caught?
Well, so what we did is we kept the infant tickets because we were like, worst case scenario, we get on the train and we act like dumb Americans and we'll be like, someone bought us these tickets. But we ended up, we got lucky too, kind of like what happened to you, but the reverse. So we went up to it was $60 a person to go from whatever the city was to Nice. And we convinced people to buy us a $60 ticket, but when they purchased it, it became a $20 ticket. And we got one ticket for 60 euros, but it came out to be 20 euros. And we were super confused because it basically said like, this is to to Nice. But then when we paid, it came out $20 and it said Marseille, which was like half the distance. So we were so confused. And I think essentially what had happened was that it was a 2-leg train. And when you click to buy like to Nice, it basically purchased the first half of the train. So we told everyone we need $20 train tickets. And Serafina went up to the conductor and was like, we bought tickets to Nice. And these are like, they gave us tickets to Marseille. And I think we essentially paid like a third of the price, but they felt bad for us. So they just upgraded all our tickets to Nice. So we got really, really lucky there. Serafina finessed that. But yeah, and then also.
Oh, sorry. I heard a lot of teams like train hopped and didn't get caught in France. Like so many teams just didn't buy tickets at all.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure that happened. We didn't get checked on that train. Actually, every person before us got checked. And then the person looked at his phone and he left the train and he didn't check our team. So we would have been like fine. The other thing I was gonna say is in Monaco, like we stayed in Monaco for like 3 days and we talked to so many rich people and we did the same thing you did, which was we had people pool their money together and we had some girl who wasn't with us, like she was just a local in Monaco, collect the money and then buy the plane tickets for us. And it ended up being 1,400 euros. So we raised 1,400 euros because we combined with another team and we wouldn't leave them. And someone brought us on stage, like on the Monaco F1 stage. And we talked to like a crowd of like 500 people. And we're like, yo, we need plane tickets. And all the rich people were like, we'll help you out. We'll help you out. And we went through Designer Road in Monaco and it was like the most nuts thing I've ever witnessed. Like in a 20-minute period, I talked to a YouTuber, Kwebbelkop, who had like 20 million subscribers. And then they ran into the CEO of Louis Vuitton. And then we ran into a guy who owned a private jet company. And the guy was like, I will give you a private jet wherever you want to go if you can confirm that this video will make it to Red Bull's main Instagram. And we're like, dude, we can't you have a really good odds, but like there's no way that's gonna happen. So we weren't able to do that. But eventually, yeah, Serafina's in the chat saying Serafina, you can rejoin if you want. But she was rinsing the money. Yeah, all 5 of us guys probably were like getting less money than she was getting to this girl Kayla who's collecting the money for us. Then we had a guy Rohan who paid for the tickets for us. But in like 3 days we were able to get the 1,400 euro plane tickets, and then we flew directly to Berlin. Sorry, I just like hijacked that. But I do want to, since Jacob and Weston are still here, and I didn't say they were gonna have to wait this long, I want to just go to like the final after party, and then I'll come back to Natasha and Ray and Kimmy. So we get to the after party, which I don't know how you guys were feeling about it, but like seeing all the other teams, like the French teams and the Spanish teams, and they're like singing their national anthems or whatever the heck they're doing. And like in America, you know, like sometimes, or in Europe, sometimes people look at Americans just as like kind of being like goofy or like idiots. And we were in that bus ride and everyone starts singing the national anthem. It's like the loudest I've ever heard it sang. And someone gets up and they're like, how about we do that when we get to the after party? And getting to the after party and everyone's singing it and just seeing the looks on their faces. And Weston and Jacob and the Gladiators were like, dude, we want you guys to win for America so bad. So we're at the after party. They're going to announce the winners. What are you guys feeling, Jacob, Weston?
So much. Like, honestly, it's a mix because we left everything on the table. We told ourselves, like, after that, also, I don't have lights except in my room because they're all out.
You're
so
good.
now. But we left everything on the table and we were happy with it. And we had a pretty good idea, like, think we're out on top. But what was really cool is once we got there is just talking to everybody. All the teams were so cool. Every single person we met. I think Serafina was the first person I talked to, and we ended up talking for like whatever 30 plus minutes just nonstop. And then everyone I continued to talk to, all the guys, girls I met that night, were just so cool. Everyone shares that kind of like extreme crazy aspect, like screw loose in their mind, and everyone made it across Europe with no money. Like, that's crazy how that works and how that even happens. So that was so cool. Plus it all coming together was just like insane. You know, me, Weston, and David, it felt like one long day that week. And I'm sure other teams can agree with that, but it was just one really long day with so much happening and so much fun, so much crazy, so much high, so much low. And for it to all come together and like getting called up was like the cherry on top. Like hugging Wes and David was like all the sleep we lost, all the miles we ran or skated or everything. It made it, you know, all worth it.
Were you guys on cloud 9 when you were on stage? Like, where does that rank in your best life moments?
It was one of those, like, I didn't even know, like your name gets called and it's like you don't even know what to do because it's like you have to act like you've been there, but none of us have been there before in that sense of that nature. So I think it was just very cool to get up there and experience it and take it all in. But like it's one of those that like in the moment I had no clue what was going on, and then like looking back on it, it is like one of the coolest things and like rewarding. Like you could see like a whole week of work go in, and then like everything you did like be like rewarded or like I guess like praised for. But it was super cool just to see like everything come together at the end. Yeah, and then being with Jacob and David, like I don't know if I'd want to do it with anybody else. So like it was pretty sick to like have us do it together.
Yeah, it was really exciting watching y'all win. You guys are welcome. You guys have been on super long. You're welcome to stay or head out. And I just want to make sure you guys kind of said everything. Natasha, you've been sitting here so kind and quiet. Come on and just share something about your experience. What was so hard to know what to ask because I'm like, I don't want someone to have to feel like they have to go through their whole 7-day story, but what was your kind of experience or anything that stood out to you?
So I feel like my team, we were Team Poo Patrol, and we were a lot in the same boat as Red Bulls Angels because our team, I'm 19, the other two girls were 18, and none of us had been to Europe. So we only speak English. None of us have been to Europe. And I found out about this competition, I think it was 3 days before the application was due. And so my two other teammates, Phoebe and Rebecca, they had never met each other. So I find out about this through my ASU sorority. And so I just get a little text from my sorority sisters, and they're like, oh, Red Bull has like an all expense paid trip to Europe. And I'm like, sounds so great. I'm in. And two other girls in my sorority are like, we're in. I'm like, okay, perfect. So we make the group chat. We're like all ready. And then I'm reading through the application and I'm like, oh, this is not an all expenses paid trip. Like, you have nothing. There are no expenses. And so I'm sitting there and I'm like, I honestly don't think these girls understand what this is. So I have to awkwardly text the group chat, hey, it's not like we get a hotel. We get nothing, like including phones, nothing. So I'm like, I don't know. Like, are you guys still down for this? Because I know like 2 other girls who would be really down for it. And I'm like,
Okay.
honestly, I might need to switch this up a little bit. Like, I'm gonna go with like some people who are like super into it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, I'd never do that." I'm like, "Okay, sounds good." So then, pretty much, we joined it. I made this super super last minute video. The two had never met, so I had to make it look like they met. I'm pulling iPhone clips from like every single year, like trying to make it like all coherent. I like had like one girl in my sorority. I like sent a photo of one of the girls who lives in Hawaii. And I sent a photo to my sorority and I was like, does anyone look like her? Can I get a stunt double? And one girl's like, yep, I look like her. So I'm like, okay, stunt double. So I'm like
Oh
pulling
my God.
like the most
Wow.
complicated video of all time. And I'm like, this is my worst work. We're not making it in, like not a chance. And so then I finally get my phone because I had like lost it. And I get my phone, I'm scrolling through my emails, like trying to like email my professor. And I see like from Red Bull, and they were supposed to let us know on April 19th, I want to say. And it's April 2nd. And I get an email and they're like, oh, you were selected for Red Bull. Can you make it? And I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no chance. Like, there's absolutely no chance. And so going into it, I didn't know what it was. I had no expectations at all. And like
Wow.
hearing the Team Gladiators talk about it, I was like, I didn't know any of that. I didn't know how the point system worked. Our phone was broken half the time, so we couldn't upload videos. So like our rankings were like really low score wise because we couldn't upload videos, and that's how you get like
Yeah.
literally most of your points. So at like the beginning, we honestly had a really great time. Like every single place we went, we weren't waiting in a train station longer than an hour. We really were place to place to place. We always found a place to stay, except for like one night we slept under a bridge, but that was with Team UK. And that was after we got kicked out of a hotel lobby. So that was only for 3 hours. It was a great time. But everything was just honestly a lot easier than I expected. I thought it was going to be really hard. We don't know Europe. We know nothing. We're stupid Americans. Like, we're just like little girls, and you just threw us out to Europe and see what
Wait.
happens. And it worked.
I don't know if you're aware of this, Natasha, but these girls also are your age and go to ASU.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying, because I want to say someone came up to us and they're like, oh, there's Red Bulls Angels. They're from ASU and they're your age. And I was like, oh, what? Like, how have I not met them?
And I'm just curious, like, were all your guys' parents not Weston? Were all your guys' parents chill with this, or were they like, what the heck are you doing?
I mean, for me personally, I kind of just wander off. Like, all my friends, when I told them about this, they're like, this is no different from what you do normally. Like, I'm always the person who kind of just like finds fun strangers and wanders off, and all of a sudden, like, I'm on a boat somewhere or I'm dirt biking. And like, that's kind
Yeah.
of just always been my thing. So I told my parents, and they're like, oh, yeah, that's cool. I'm like, okay, sick. Like, sounds good.
What about Kimmy, Rhea? Same experience?
My parents, they were like they had their kind of like doubts at the beginning. And the biggest thing was like my parents would tell their coworkers, like, oh my God, my daughter got this. And they'd be like, well, I personally would not send my like young 19-year-old daughter on a trip like that. I wouldn't do that. But like, honestly, my mom pulled through and she's like, you know what? Go live your life. Go for it. Like, you need this experience. Like, go do it. So she pulled through at the end.
My mom. So me and Neethi had very similar experiences. I actually learned that our parents had to talk about it, and they were like, "Oh my God, we went through the same thing." But basically, I told my mom, and I first like I kind of had to do it in steps. First, I tell her like, okay, I kind of want to sign up for this, and then first thing she says is like, "Okay, well, just so you know, you're not gonna go." And I was like, "Okay, but like, hold on, like, give it a chance." And then when we got the acceptance, I was like, Mom, like, this is huge. Like, when will I get an opportunity like this again? And she was very against it for the same reason. Like, it's just a lot of fear to like let your 18-year-old daughter who's never traveled by herself before just go to Europe with like no money. And it's just like that like mom fear. And she was really scared, but it was my dad. He was the one who was like, it actually kind of sounds kind of cool. And my mom was like, are you crazy? And then my dad was like, she gets to go to Europe, you know? Like, we always want to go to Europe. Like, let her go to Europe. And, like, this will be really cool. And if she's, like, vlogging everything, like, we'll still be able to kind of see, like, how she's doing, what she's up to. And Neethy's parents were just the same. And eventually, like, I didn't talk to my mom for, like, a day just because she really had to, like, cool down with it. But she eventually did agree. And then all our parents made a group chat, and we were joking around. We're like, maybe the real central command was our parent group chat, because we get our phones back and there's 600 messages. And
So
they were all just like, it was just them being like, they haven't posted in like 5 hours. How are they? Where are they? What are they doing? They just posted they were in a car and then they didn't post anymore. Like, are they okay? Freaking out. But I think like it helped that they had each other. They got to freak out together. And then so it helped, and then but it ended up being like fine. So it was all good, you know.
Wait, I have a question. Oh, sorry. So actually you mentioned Command Central, like that whole thing. And I have a question for you guys, because I know a lot of teams had Command Central calling them, you know, maybe once a day, twice a day. My team was getting calls from Command Central 5 to 7 times a day. Anytime we went anywhere, anytime place to place, we're getting call after call. Hi, are you guys okay? Do you guys have a place to sleep? Are you guys alive? Are you hungry? And I'm like, oh, we're doing great. We just got this hotel. We got these train tickets. And they're kind of just like, oh, you're okay. And I'm like, oh yeah, we're doing great. I'm having a great time. And every time they were just so in shock that we were like alive, quite honestly. It was so funny.
Ours called us probably like once or twice a day.
Yeah, same with ours. Once or twice a day.
They were extra worried about you.
We would call Kevin.
We had the same central command.
We had withdrawals from Kevin after the call.
Yeah,
us with Ahmed. We miss Ahmed. Ours was Ahmed. We miss Ahmed.
I remember he commented under like, I think it was like transportation, like someone on Transportation Titans. He was like, "Oh my gosh, my favorite team," and we replied, "We're like, oh." Like that
we started an O chain. We're like, oh, just to freak him out. It was just funny.
So something I want to say about your like parents watching, Seraphina's parents like did not want her to go at all. And when we would like do anything dangerous, like when we slept on the beach, we wouldn't post it real time because we're like, if we post it now, they're going to be freaking out. So we'd always wait until we were alive the next day. And then we'd be like, we slept on the beach last night. So that like, it would save them the heart attack. And then the other thing is I shared a central command with Team Gladiators. Like we had the same central command guy, Kevin, and Seraphina always had the phone. We never had it. And they said they would talk to him for like an hour and like game plan and do whatever, talk. When we got calls from him, it was literally like, we would try to hang up as fast as possible. We'd be like, we're good. We're going to Monaco. Okay, bye, Kevin. What else do you want? And we'd like literally hang up on him. And he was like telling us at the end, he was like, dude, if all the teams were like you guys, like we would have been, I wouldn't have had a job that week. It was just like a joke because every time Central Command would call us, we'd be like, too much yappy, like hang up the phone. And then I never talked to him the whole week, but I got on the phone one time with him. And I was like, what can I say to him? Like, he hasn't heard my voice. It's like day 6. And I was like, Kevin, I'm so nervous to talk to you. I haven't heard your voice. I'm like, I'm so scared to talk to you. And then we saw him at the checkpoint and I was like, Kevin, I'm so scared to meet you. And we were just trolling him. It was really funny. Also, there's this guy, Nick Yonker, in the chat, and I have no idea what he's saying. He said, so how did you bring in Red? And I go, what do you mean Red? And he goes, because he's my grandfather. I go, did someone interact with your grandfather? He goes, probably your family. Keep on though. I like it. Yeah, don't do real time. All your sessions are compromised because you did it live. I don't know who you are, Nick Yonker, but your comments don't make any sense. But clearly you've been here a long time, so thanks for watching. What else?
Kevin was cool. We would call Central Command like after hours, not knowing, and they'd think we'd have an emergency, and then we just ask them if we could talk to Kevin, and they'd be like, "Yeah, Kevin's not in right now," and they're like, "Do you have an emergency?" And we're like, "Yeah, can we talk to Kevin, please?"
There was one time where he texted us at like 12 at night because he saw our location, and he was like, "You fucking," oh sorry, he quote unquote said, "You effing crazy guys, you're going all the way to Croatia." And we were taking bets on. We were like, "What does Kevin look like?" Because we'd never seen him, and he looked exactly like we pictured. So it was great.
Really? I don't know what dude. Kevin was like literally our age. Like he was like 24.
The goat.
23. Dude,
we walked the finish line
cool.
with him, and we got him ice cream. So like we all walked across the finish line with him with the ice cream.
And we were
Oh my gosh, bro. Yeah. Dang, I wish I was more boys with him. I only got to hang out with him at the after party. That was it. But yeah, that was a good time. What about any funny after party stories? Natasha, you look sus.
The after party was really fun. It was a lot. I don't know. I think everyone was just very ready to celebrate after like everything, and everything was building up to like this big party. You see everyone again. You see people from the like first time you saw them, and it was so much fun. And I remember especially like the first time you were talking earlier on the podcast with, I think it's Mad Labs, right?
Yeah, Mad Lads. Yeah.
And so we were actually one of the teams who went out to them with dinner, like with the first night. So that was with Colombia and Brazil and Mexico and their team. And so then we got to see them all at the finish line. And it was so much fun. And just like, it was just so much energy, and like all the hard times. I'm just like, okay, we got to make it, because we're making it to this after party because we have to see the teams that we started with. Like that was my one goal. I'm like, there's no way we're not making it to Berlin.
Dang. Nikki Onker goes, "What's your locations, each of you?" I don't know if he's like not English speaking, but just
dude, Jacob, you had the cup.
What is that?
The after party cup.
The one that
what?
Do you remember? Did you never see him? Yeah, like if you put.
I remember that now. I just forgot about it. Dude, so I don't drink alcohol, and at the after party, I was obviously like super tired and hungry, like we all were. And I'm like usually a really healthy eater, and they opened up that candy room in the middle of the party, and I was just like so on like, like you're on like scavenge mode, and I just like demolished candy. It was so unlike me. But yeah, like I just remember being in that candy room, like, why is there a candy room in the middle of this party? And everyone was just ransacking it. That was so funny. I also think it was really cool how the party like expanded as the night went on. So like your expectations were lower, and then they got cooler and cooler.
But yeah, I mean, like what Natasha said, we really wanted to meet all the other teams because we kind of thought about it, and we're like, wait, there's gonna be like 900 people at this party. We're gonna like meet like so many people that we've only seen on like social media. Like we have, and that was like the driving force. We're like, we need to see these people. Like who else like signed up for something so crazy? And like when we finally made it, it was honestly just like, it was surreal. We're like, there's no way. And same with like our command center guy. It was really funny because in the beginning we didn't really know how command center worked. I know I'm like circling back, but it's just like we didn't really know how command center worked. And so at first we didn't realize that the person is like assigned to you basically worked a 9 to 5. Because by 5 you call and you're like, hey, and they're like, oh, they're like clocked out. And we're like, where is Ahmed? So our first impression was like what the hell, Ahmed? But then like over time we ended up just kind of telling him more of like our business, and he started getting like obviously like you get kind of like homies like with your command center guy, and he was more concerned. He's like, oh my god, like please tell me you're safe, you guys are amazing. Like there's like more personality going on like when we're texting. And that's kind of like when we're like, Ahmed, what do you look like? And he drops, I'm passing the story on to Rhea afterward, but he drops the Instagram, and then Rhea and Neethi pull it up.
Okay, so we pull up his, so we forgot that our phones are mirrored like 24/7, right? So we're like talking to him on the phone, and then like as we're talking to him, like we're going through his Instagram, we're like deep stalking his pictures from like 2019, 2020. We're like zooming in on his face. We're like, oh my god, is this one Ahmed? And then we hang the phone, we're like, okay, bye Ahmed, we're busy, like whatever. And then we're just deep stalking him, and then suddenly like I get this realization, like, and he was just kind of like laughing, like while he was on the phone with us, he was like, ah. And then I was like, guys, he's watching our phone right now. We're being screen mirrored. So he's just like, for the past like 5-10 minutes, like he's just watching us like look at his pictures from like 2019, 2018, like zooming in on his face, and like we're just checking out what he does in his life. And then we were like, oh my god, like we had like,
we were freaking out. We were like, turn off the phone right now. Like we turn off the phone. We just have to sit in silence for a while. We're like,
for 30 minutes, we were just sitting in silence. Like
we were like, wait, we need to like reflect on what just happened, because like that was just like the epitome of like digital footprint. We're like,
I did not know those were mirrored. That is really funny. Oh my goodness. Me in the UK, so Team Pua Patrol and Team Raz from the UK, we met at one of the checkpoints. I think it was in Constance, Germany, kind of just merged into like a mega team, and we just traveled around, and they were like our big brothers. It was so great. But one of the nights we went out in Brussels, and it was so fun. We were like, okay, you know what? Like, we're not going to try to find a place to stay, whatever. Like, we got a hotel lobby. We can come back there. This is great. We just get kicked out at 6 a.m. So we're like, okay, let's just go and let's just like have a good time. So I literally just went all around Brussels and went to like the funnest little pubs and restaurants and met all these cool people. And so we're out at this like bar until it like is closing time, you know? And so I'm thinking like, oh, like they're kicking us out, right? Because they start turning off all the lights, like no one's there. It's just like our two teams. All of a sudden, the bartender just pulls out this huge fog machine, just places it on the bar counter, and then gets a disco light and just starts blaring music like louder than it's been all night. And I'm just like, what is going on? And it was the funnest night ever. Like they gave us all these little elephant pins. It was like from Dorilio. I'm gonna butcher that. It's like the chain of bars in Europe, and it was just like the funniest night ever. And now I'm just thinking back on like Command Central, like just overviewing the whole thing.
That's funny that you call it Command Central. I've been live streaming for the last 3.5 hours, so I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thank you guys for all joining and just being a part, and especially like the girls for waiting such a long time. I didn't know how long everyone kind of stayed on from the very beginning. It was late, so I made everyone wait, and you guys waited, and that was really nice. It was such a pleasure getting to know each and every one of you, like from the first day with Red Bulls Angels to meeting Natasha at the finish line, and Jacob and Weston. You guys were super embracing when I asked you to do this. So I just thank you all for coming on. And yeah, is there any last words before I hang up?
Thank you for putting this together.
Yeah, thank you for doing this. I think it's
thank you for having us.
Yeah, really let's I hope you ASU girls get together and you become best friends forever.
Yeah, I was gonna say we need to meet up. This is like such a funny moment. So
yeah, that'll be so fun.
Yeah. Share your guys' phone numbers to each other.
Now that we have phones. Yeah.
True, and they're not screen mirrored.
Jacob, I will hopefully see you in LA or San Diego soon. Maybe Weston.
Yeah, I'll have to make my way down sometime, but I think I will.
All right. Nick Yonker, who so graciously watched. Thank you, Ozzy, Weston, Kimmy. I'm so confused who you are and what you were saying about your grandpa Red, but
I just like the one where he says, "Never trust a man that doesn't drink alcohol."
But you're okay.
He said, I can't see that.
All right. Peace out, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.